On the clock. Good morning. It is Saturday. Dude, it's March. We're already, what's the fraction? 1/6, 16% of the way through the year. Soup and meatballs time, Tim. How are you? How was your week?
It was a good week. It was a busy week. Not a great night last night because the Celtics blew a big lead. Didn't love that to the Cavs, but otherwise doing well.
I didn't see the game, but I saw the meme this morning with like the happy.
Yeah, and it didn't help that the Celtics were it didn't help that the Celtics were kind of clowning the Cavaliers a little bit when they had the big lead, and then for the Cavs to come back, it just makes you look twice as stupid. But I'm accustomed to looking stupid.
The fact that I guess Cleveland being the top seed, and I don't know how far Boston is away from them, but to lose a game like that against a playoff contender
at home.
Yeah. But, we're going to do something on Soup and Meatballs I don't think we've ever done. Maybe once, for 12 seconds. But we're going to lead off the
Russian
show.
roulette?
We were going to talk about this last week, but things happened. We didn't get to go on last week, so we're kind of a week late on this. The NHL All-Star Game finished up. They ran the Four Nations tournament thing, which I think a lot of people really enjoyed, and staying away from the political aspect of the Canada-United States final. This was good hockey, allegedly. I mean, as someone who likes hockey told me, this felt like playoff hockey. Did the NHL discover like a secret to making an All-Star game relevant?
Yes, because this was fantastically entertaining. I think the NHL doing this, Adam Silver should 100% have a U.S. against the world format for the NBA All-Star game.
I don't know if the U.S. could handle the world now.
Well,
in basketball, that would be a. I mean, the Olympics notwithstanding, we're putting the whole world then against the U.S.
Right. I guess you'd have to find a different way to mix it up, but because the world team you'd have Giannis, you'd have Jokic, Luka, SGA, yeah.
Eventually, maybe. Hopefully.
Rudy Gobert, maybe. Although I'm not as high on him as some are. I mean,
and on the Americans, we have Tatum.
We have Tatum. We have LeBron, Curry, Durant. Embiid has 3 citizenships. None of them are playing for the rest of this year. I hate to laugh. The man, he's been through a lot physically. It's not funny. But
when he's getting paid $60 million a year, you can laugh at him.
But it's still on a human level. It's someone, I feel bad at human level.
And speaking of human level, not to get off hockey, but I know zero about hockey. Human level, we talked, U.S. versus the world. Wembanyama would have been on that world squad as well. Wow, serious health issues. This isn't like, you sprain your knee or something like that. We're talking blood clot. Was it blood clots?
Yeah, it's a thrombosis in his shoulder.
And someone that size, blood clots, that's got to be scary from a medical
and that's
standpoint.
The concern, when someone is that big, just the vascularity in the body, you worry about. That's what killed Wilt Chamberlain relatively young. He was only in his early 60s and he died of a heart attack. And that's the concern with a lot of, when you see NFL guys or NBA big men who die young, that is the concern. So this
physical toll.
As much as I love watching Wembanyama, I'm glad they shut him down. I'm glad they're doing something for this young guy because he's only 21.
Yeah, were they going anywhere this year? No, I don't think
they were going to be like a 9 or a 10 in the West, maybe. They were going to be in the play-in tournament.
We're going to make the conference finals. So now, I mean, San Antonio, they're not a playoff team now, do you think?
No. Even with, the moves they made at the deadline and, an aging CP3, I would say that's a bottom 5 team in the West without Wembanyama.
I ran there's a website called Tankathon. They run. They tell you who's leading for the number one spot. As a Bears fan, I spent a lot of time there over the last couple of years. They have a basketball version as well, but the cool thing is they have a lottery randomizer, and you can sit there and you can click every time. They'll change the mock draft based on who is drafting where. So like right now, Washington has the best odds at getting the number one spot, and presumably Cooper Flagg if he comes out of Duke, which is questionable now. Who knows? San Antonio, I think, was at a 3% chance of landing the top spot, but they're almost guaranteed a top 8 spot, which allegedly is a deep draft. Am I wrong?
And the thing is, like now with the influx of international players, you have to trust the experts more than your eyeballs more than ever, because how many people are watching Real Madrid basketball, or watching French basketball or Serbian basketball?
I was just watching highlights an hour ago. What were you doing?
That's what I was watching after the Celtics game. I was watching Real Madrid.
I watched part of the Laker game while I was talking to my dad on the phone. So I was watching the Laker game on mute while sitting on my couch. My dad needed some help moving a shelf, but Derek has he had a band thing yesterday. He has another band thing today, so it might be a couple weeks till I get up there. But it was weird actually watching basketball for the first time, like purposefully. Like I actually turned it on. There was nothing else on, so I watched basketball.
I'm curious now, as someone who doesn't watch a ton of basketball but used to watch it a bunch in the 90s, what were your takeaways sitting and watching a game in 2025?
Well, I don't remember much about last night's game, but like the last couple of games I've watched, I'm just tired of 3-point shooting. Yeah. That's listen, if you're going to shoot 45% from 3, I understand. I mean, you go for it, you do it. I mean, Steph Curry had 56 the other night, and he hit 75% of his 3-point shots.
Yep.
So like that's Steph Curry though. Like I don't need to see Jalen Brunson and the Knicks game. I think I saw the Knicks a couple days ago, like in passing, not really sitting and watching. But when they were playing Boston, they must have had 6 or 7 straight possessions where they were one and done because they took a 3-point shot with nobody under the basket to try to get a board. And like the perimeter offense is set, we shoot, and then we missed. And I could get a rebound in those situations.
And it's funny, as a Celtics fan, no one shoots more threes than Boston. They're on pace to average 53-point attempts a game, which would shatter the NBA record, I think, of the 16-17 Warriors. But Boston is set up in a way they have, Tatum and Brown and Derek White, and Drew Holiday. Porzingis can hit from deep. Hauser and Pritchard. They have guys who shoot 35, 40, 45%. Where it gets frustrating is when you see a fast break opportunity where they throw it back to the 3-point line rather than drive to the hoop. Because that fast break is entertaining basketball. Like full court basketball is like that's the fun. That's like 80s, 90s basketball. And the other frustrating thing is when you don't have a roster that's constructed like the Celtics and you see a team jacking up 35 or 43.
And I think that's the Knicks. I think that the Knicks have a good pick and roll offense, but they don't run it. And I mean, at this point, if you look at the East as a whole, we'll talk about that right now because I heard it in the radio and I wanted to mention it. Kendrick Perkins said the NBA season's over. We should just crown Boston. They are your 2024-25 world champs. Anybody in the East, is Cleveland going to beat them in a series of 7? No. Well, you wonder after last night. Are the Knicks? No. Is Milwaukee? No. And is anybody else in
the East is a 2-team race. I'll admit that. I don't think anyone's beating Boston or Cleveland. But to say that it's Boston for the whole thing is ridiculous because the West is so incredibly deep.
Well, let's go out west now, where the game I watched last night, Luka had a good game. The Lakers have won 5 straight after they beat the Clippers. They play the Clippers back-to-back, which is kind of strange. 5 straight wins for the Lakers, and if you look at the 2, 3, and 4 seeds, they're all separated by like a game and a half. So, I said when this Luka trade hit, I wouldn't be shocked if they got the 2 seed. Well, they're a game and a half out of the 2 seed right now. And the way they're playing, that's a definite possibility. I don't know if Oklahoma City is hanging with Boston in 7. They're a good story, but they're a regular season story. I think this Lakers team, though, I think could hang. And I think Denver can hang. But if I have to pick a top 3, I kind of agree with Perkins that Boston is really good, and beating them 4 times is going to be hard. From what I've seen with the Lakers, I might put them 2. I think we're going to get a finals matchup next week when the Lakers and Celtics play.
I'm not as bullish on the Lakers. I think they're a lot of fun, and I don't think anyone in the West wants to play them. But
I think they'll outscore their way to the finals.
I think their defensive deficiencies are just too glaring. I don't think. I think their roster is constructed to sell a lot of jerseys, but I don't think it's necessarily constructed to have them playing into June.
I didn't see a lot of Luka jerseys on the screen. I saw a 16. Who's the Lakers 16?
16. Reeves is 15.
It's not an all-time number either. Like if it was 32 or 8, you'd like, oh yeah,
34, yeah.
16, and maybe it was just folded or something, and I really thought I saw 16.
Ask your producer.
Well, okay. I'm the producer's afraid because he thought that.
Oh yeah.
He thinks the producing computer might go Pau Gasol.
Oh.
I saw Pau Gasol jersey last night.
Who was buying Pau Gasol jerseys in 2010, let alone in 2025?
Well, they're still wearing
it. Your wardrobe, brother.
I think I still have my Clyde Drexler USA number 10 jersey.
I still have.
I dare not try to put it on.
I still have the Donovan McNabb jersey I bought in college, so I can't, But the Eagles didn't have much in terms of like franchise quarterbacks until McNabb. So
what's the last jersey you bought? You'll never guess mine, and I know this for a fact.
Are we talking?
I know the jersey I bought.
Are we talking an actual jersey, or do T-shirts that like have the player?
Actual jersey. Actual jersey.
Man,
if you don't remember, yeah, I just threw this on you here.
I'm gonna say it's not one I bought, but it was given to me as a Christmas present. I'm gonna say in like 2010 or so. It was a Bill Russell throwback. It's a green Celtics 6.
Oh, Celtics one. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 guesses, and you're not going to get it. Last jersey I bought myself.
What sport?
Football.
Okay. Raymond Harris.
No, that'd be cool. I'd love a Raymond Harris jersey. I doubt they make him. You'd have to customize it. I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue. It's a single digit.
Okay. Denard Robinson.
No, he was 16 at Michigan. Was he a single digit with the Jaguars?
Oh, why was I thinking he was number 1?
No, he was.
I've got Jalen Hurts on the brain.
No, it wasn't Jalen Hurts either. It was a quarterback though. I'll give you that clue. You're never getting this. This is so funny.
Oh man,
Mr. Smarty Pants, forget about it. You're going to make up for it later in the show.
Who was it?
AC Slater.
Oh, get out of here with
Bayside number 3. I told you we're going to get it. It was for Halloween. We went as I went as Slater and Jen went as Kelly Kapowski.
It's funny.
Unfortunately, Zach Morris wasn't there.
One of my favorite things in Bloomsburg here, the college has their block party, which is like the excuse for all the college kids to get drunk and cause property damage. But one of my favorite things, like when I'm out walking during the day, is seeing like who's wearing what throwback jerseys. And the one year I was walking to get lunch and I saw a kid wearing a Will Smith Fresh Prince, like Bel Air Academy basketball.
I've seen those. Yeah. I think he was 25 or something.
Something like that.
I can't think of any other like pop culture media jerseys that you could possibly see, like Friday Night Lights you never see, or
I've seen
who did John Moxon play for, like whoever those Mustangs were, the Al Bundy Polk High jersey.
I've seen Ricky Vaughn. I've seen Cleveland '99. I've seen from Slapshot. I've seen Reggie Dunlap like hockey sweaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some out.
That's cool. That's what you don't see too much of is college throwbacks, and we'll throw it to college now, where it's March, so let the madness officially start. Right? It was last week. The top of the Big Ten, Michigan State got together, and Michigan dropped a tough one, but they bounced back. They've won back-to-back games. Michigan State's won 4 in a row. They are in a dead tie for the Big Ten lead. They meet at the end of the regular season in East Lansing. It's a tough place to win. Then you got Wisconsin, who's also like they're rated higher than Michigan, but Michigan's got a better record. So like that's where rankings kind of befuddle me. Have you followed much Big Ten basketball at all?
Not much, other than seeing that half-court buzzer beater in Maryland.
Michigan State with the game winner, but
Yeah.
I just checked the records. Like again, finding the time to watch the actual games. I remember back in the 90s, man, like Big East Monday, Big Ten Tuesday, just sitting watching the shows on ESPN. The big news, I guess, out of Michigan, Dusty May, their coach. I didn't realize he had ties to Indiana, but he signed an extension with Michigan, so. The Wolverine fans happy with the job he's done, especially the year after Juwan Howard's last season, not really good for the Maize and Blue. Bracketology has them as a 4, which, I mean, that's decent. They have Michigan State as a 2.
The Fab Five as freshmen were a 5 when they went and lost.
I thought they were a 6. Were they a 5?
That's right,
really?
They were a 6.
Yeah. I don't know much about current basketball. I know my Fab Five history a little bit.
Yeah, and they had to beat Temple in the Final Four. I remember that.
Temple in the Final Four, but then they faced Temple again in the Elite Eight the next year before they played that Kentucky team in '93 with Jamal Mashburn. I remember the press conference after that game where Weber and Howard, one of them said they ran so many set plays like they'd never done that before. They were just straight playground most of the time, but when they actually focused themselves, they could beat a Rick Pitino-led Kentucky team. But anyway, like this year's March Madness, the bracket comes out in a little over 3 weeks, maybe, March 16th. The 2 big names, I saw this video, like you can already pick the championship based on these stats. If you're top 10 in offense and top 10 in defense, and the 2 teams that fit that bill, Duke, Auburn. Duke is number 1 in offense and number 2 in defense. That's phenomenal.
That is.
Auburn number 2 in offense, but number 8 in defense. So the odds say that's going to be your championship, but we all know it won't be, because why would it?
Yeah. Anyone who tries to approach March Madness by applying algorithms or using any kind of logic is missing out on the whole point of March Madness. It's not called March Calculus. It's March Madness. Like that.
March Calculus sounds awful, by the way.
I hated calculus. I'm so glad I don't have to do it anymore.
I took 0 minutes of calculus. I've taken 46 trips around the sun. I know nothing about it. I know this much. When I'm in my classroom and some of my kids, they'll bring their books with them. The calculus book in my high school says calculus with limits. And I bust their chops. I'm like, call me when you're taking calculus without limits. When you get
Never guts. Limit yourself, kids.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what limits are in math, but I joke with them and they laugh, and that's fine.
Lindsay Lohan taught us, the limit does not exist.
Yeah. So the cool part about the tournament, you're right. You bank for the upsets. You hope for the upsets week 1, but then you want to see the good matchups in week 2. And seeing a 15 seed in the Final Four was like my dream. Yeah, I'd love that. It's probably not going to happen, and that's okay. But this like heavyweight Duke Auburn matchup, they're going to be set on the opposite sides of the bracket. They almost have to, the way the seeding works.
Right.
I don't know who's likely to pull an upset of one of them. I mean, they're both not undefeated. They both lost, so it can happen. I just don't know how likely it is.
I'll be curious, and it's really when I start to pay attention is during like the conference tournaments.
It's coming up, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see, what Duke does come conference time. Same with, an absolutely loaded SEC.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there, because that's just going to be a mess of a tournament.
I mean, well, the last time we did this, I think 4 of the top 5 AP poll were SEC, but the top 4 coaches poll were SEC.
Yeah.
Super, super top heavy. I like Michigan basketball to a point, like where if they win and helps the football team, I'm happy. I root for Syracuse, and it's been hard because they're not relevant, and it's been since they've been in the Big East. Once they moved to the ACC, that was it. They lost their edge. The Carrier Dome got renamed, and it's a bummer. And I don't know if it'll ever come back. I mean, Jerry McNamara left. He took a head coaching job somewhere else, and
that's what I'm learning as I inch my way towards 50, is that things happened a certain way when I was in my teens and 20s, and why can't they just keep being that way? Why? It's still the Carrier Dome in this house.
Oh no, it absolutely is. Just like it's still Heinz Field for a lot of Steeler fans. Like this acupuncture stadium, forget about it. No.
Yeah, like it's even hard with, like, at least you can shorten the link. For the Eagles, you can call it the link, and but
instead of Lincoln Financial.
Yeah, like
the link actually sounds cool. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. I would hate it if I had to like call it by its full corporate name.
Well, I mean, the Bears I don't know if is it still Soldier Field, or
it's like Soldier Field brought to you by like PNC Bank or something. I don't know. Do you think anyone called Abraham Lincoln Link?
Not if they wanted to live. Like that man was not putting up with stuff like that.
Well,
I don't think Lincoln was very friendly. He was scowly. He was big, and I think he might have been grumpy.
He had a bit of a surly disposition, from what I've heard.
I don't think he would have been cool with like nicknames.
Well, I mean, they do call him Honest Abe.
Well, I don't know if they called him Abe back then. To his face,
and also like Honest Abe
10 face. I don't know.
Honest Abe isn't much of a nickname. It's not like Black Mamba.
No, it's like best nicknames in sports. Yeah, we'll draft that. I like that idea. If we haven't done it already, we might have. I think we did. I forget.
I don't want a president to come out and be like, and that's why you call me the truth.
Obama could have done that after that 3-point shot that he walked out of the gym on.
Oh yeah,
he was wearing a mask. And he just turns around like he knew it was good. That was like the most drop the mic thing I've seen a president do. I've never seen Nixon bowl. So
Trump's a decent golfer. I mean, whatever else you want to say about him, it looks like he's a pretty good golfer.
I think he approaches golf the same way Judge Smales does.
Yeah, because I know Rick Riley has said Trump treats his scorecard the way some people treat their taxes. It's just a hint of the truth.
I'll be honest, he could probably beat me in golf, but I mean,
he could 100% beat me in golf.
Throwback. You were with me the first time I went golfing. We went to that. I tell my kids who are on the golf team, the first time I shot a 77, and they look at me like, "Wow, that's awesome."
Yeah,
it
was on the second hole.
It was a 9-hole par 3 pitch and putt. I was 50 over par. And then I tell them the story about you hitting the golf ball behind you and hitting the barn. Remember that?
Yeah. Because here's
Gary
what I
Farmer comes out with the pitchfork. We get a run.
Yeah, it was like something out of like Hee Haw.
It was something out of a horror movie, is what it was.
And some people would say that's bad golf, but I would say I have such good club speed. I
have no idea how that happened. And I also had, when we go to the driving range, the most wicked slices, because all the golf grass, and we were up just lighting it up on the tee box. Yeah, and my ball, it was like a heat-seeking missile. And I I didn't want to hit them. I just wanted to hit the ball straight. I'm an awful golfer, so yeah, he could totally beat me, win, lose, or Jesse Ventura cheating. Forget it.
I think I could beat Obama at basketball.
I couldn't. I could compete with either one of them in bowling, I bet. Last time I bowled, I think I hit a 165. So
I'm a very hit or miss bowler these days. If I go, I might bowl a 150 or I might bowl a 73.
now we went. We took the kids. It was like like a 2-hour block. My arm was my forearm was so tight I couldn't move my fingers. I mean, I think I bowled 6 games. It was a good time. Oh, you know what? Hold on. We're gonna check with the actual. I don't think I deleted the scores off my phone. I might have lied to you. I did. I'm a terrible person. What did I say I got?
I don't know because I just dribbled water all down my chest.
153. That's what I got.
Okay, that's more than respectable.
Remember this guy?
Let me put my glasses on here.
It's the old Chicago Bears bowling towel.
Oh my God!
Oh, it's so dirty.
How are we allowed? You remember we used to bring rum like for Joe Boo, like from Major League.
Boo.
We were like 14. We were like,
I still have Joe Boo in the other room.
You could drive, so you were 16. But how are we going around with rum?
I don't think I was still 15 at the time because oh no, I might have been 16 because I was driving on my permit.
Okay.
I don't. We didn't take the rum out all the time.
Right, and
that one lady
clear,
was always mad at us.
We weren't like drinking it or anything. It was purely a reference to Major League that we were putting rum out for Joe Boo.
And you know what? We didn't do poorly. I think we had a pretty good summer fun league. We had like 18 subs that year because we couldn't get 4 people to come all the time.
Do you think the other adults at the bowl arena were just like, oh, I'm sure that's water? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I doubt they even noticed because we didn't really like draw too much attention to it. Like, hey, look at this.
True. So we've just given any kids watching the template for how to sneak rum into a bowling alley.
In a mustard jar. That's what it was. An old mustard jar. My dad used to give me the mustard jar in middle school and junior high school because he would give me roast beef sandwiches. And he's like, you should put mustard on it. I'm like, well, just put mustard on it before you put it in the bag. He's like, no, it's better out of the jar. Like I was an aristocrat in 8th grade.
Yeah, you were bringing beer to Greeby.
That was a junior high school, but yeah, that's another good time. Well, I'll tell you what. Speaking of rum and beer, I don't know if you focused or you checked out our old college stomping grounds, college basketball's years, but I looked into it last week, and IUP's men's team having a really bad year. They're down 13-15 overall, 8-12 in the PSAC conference. They just dropped their final game to Clarion, and that was decided in the first half. They were down by 20. Amazingly, though, despite the sub 500 record, IUP is the 6th seed. They have made the PSAC playoffs. They're going to go on the road, which they'll either play California or Edinburgh. They both have the same conference record, and as the schedule gods would have it, they play each other today. So 3 o'clock, about 4.5 hours from now, they'll tip off. The loser of that game hosts IUP's men's team. The winner gets a bye. Did you check any? Do you know anything about Bloomsburg's basketball team?
No, I've been
it's okay if you don't because they had a worse year than IUP.
Yeah, they've. I know the women's program had a moment about 10 or 15 years ago, and Bill Cleary was there. But there's been a lot of flux with both programs, and honestly, I've become disillusioned with the alma mater because we have a problematic president who insists on staying, even though he's a sexual harasser. That's not me slandering the man. He's been found guilty and just refuses to leave. So I'll get off my soapbox now. But
that's okay.
I'm angry at you, Huskies.
The head coach for Bloomsburg is Chris Bess in his 2nd year. And if you look at his picture, you might think to yourself, wow, that guy looks like a football player. Because he is. He was a former defensive end for Bloomsburg. They do have a Hazleton kid named Joey Marshall, 6'4", 208. Good sized kid, but he was a freshman, so he didn't see a lot of time. Really heavy upperclassmen, a lot of seniors. That their leading scorer is a graduate And so not a lot of good news for either of our men's programs. But the women's program you mentioned, Bloomsburg, this is really, really wild. The Lady Huskies are 11-10. They clinched a playoff berth, but I don't know where they're going to play. They could be anywhere from 3 to 5. So right now, they're 11-10. Westchester is a half a game ahead of them at 11-9. Today they play Kutztown. Kutztown's tied for the top spot in the league. So at Kutztown, you probably think Westchester's dropping that one. Millersville, 10-10. They're home today against a 7-win Shepherd team. Odds are good. Millersville wins that one. So now you have 3 teams locked in at 11-10. I have no idea what the tiebreakers are, but Lady Huskies in the playoffs. And IUP's in the playoffs too. They're locked into the 4 seed. They just won their regular season finale over Clarion. And their biggest problem is now they're going to be playing against Cal, a team they lost to twice this year. They've lost 4 straight dating back to January of 24. And it's tough when you have the 4 seed, you have a home game, and then you see a team that you just don't have a lot of success against coming in.
Yeah, I know. Even from like my time in school, and this is when the men's program was still pretty good at BU, but the women's program was always like one of like the consistently like most successful programs.
I think IUP, Bloomsburg, Shippensburg had a really good team back then. I remember
Shippensburg was very good. BU used to meet them in nationals a lot, and
one of my best friends in school was the power forward for IUP back in the day. And so remember Beth Stashevsky? Of course you do. She met Beth McDonald at state track and field. And I guess McDonald had told Stashevsky, yeah, I'm going to go to IUP, yada, yada. And Stashevsky's like, oh, yeah, I know somebody going to IUP. You should meet him. And we met in dance class, of all places. Like, we were in the same dance class.
What style of dance?
It was whatever. I think it was like you had to take history of dance, history of art, history of drama, history of theater, or history of music.
Was it?
And
I
narrowed it down.
Were you popping and locking?
I mean, I was one of 4 guys in the class, and there was like 96 girls. I didn't have a hard time finding a dance partner.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would go to all the IUP basketball games pretty much, because she was my friend, but I was doing a TV show at the time, so I was trying to do some primary researching. The IUP girls team made it all the way to the National Elite 8 in Beth's junior, I want to say either sophomore or junior year. They had a really, really good team. But I mean, they haven't duplicated that success in a while. But I mean, in National Final 8, that's really good. Yeah,
BU made some runs, and I'm sure you remember this name because she was a trainer on our football teams, Megan Labuda.
Yeah.
She was like a standout, like PSAC East Player of the Year type player, like top 10 scorer in program history.
That was back, was that like 2002, 3-ish?
She was like a year behind me, I want to say.
I remember covering her, like that name when I was doing TV, which I thought might have been 2002.
Yeah, like I graduated in 01, so she would have probably like 02, 03 maybe would have been her last season.
That we're right there. I mean,
yeah, so like those teams were really good, and then they had a moment when Bill Cleary took over the program in like 2011, 2012, where they would go to nationals. But yeah, neither program for BU is where they had been, unfortunately, because I'd love to go up, to Upper Campus and catch some games, but
not until
President Hanna goes. Everyone wants him to go. He got it. I'm going to get back on my soapbox.
Get on, man.
The state system, like the union, gave a vote of no confidence. Even his peers are telling him, just get out, dude. Like, you've cost the university $5 million in civil lawsuits. And he's like, nope, not going. He's making my alma mater an embarrassment.
Well, I got my master's there, so I'm right there with you. So the Soup and Meatballs petition starts today. Get out.
Yeah, I saw the student paper, the whole cover of the last issue of last semester. I forget what the headline was, but it was like President Hanna has to go. And it was like, even the students want him gone.
That's awkward, right? I mean,
Yeah, what's it like
the
when you walk into your
paper-
work? What's it like to walk to work when you're that guy? And you walk in the building and you're like, hey, Beverly, happy birthday. And she's like, go to hell.
Yeah, I have nothing further to add. And before we get in trouble, let's stay in college. I just saw this week. It's an older story, but 2 weeks back, news came out about possibly expanding the college football playoff again to 14 or 16 teams. Now, check, this is where things get a little weird. 4 automatic qualifiers for the SEC and Big Ten, like regardless of whatever. 2 automatic qualifiers for the ACC and Big 12, 1 to the highest ranked group of 5 champion, including 1 or 3 at-large spots for Notre Dame if they finish inside the top 14. The 14-team model includes 2 first-round buys. The 16-team model, obviously, no first-round buys. Michigan head coach Sharon Moore is backing this. He likes it. I think his quote was, you look at the strength of schedule in this league, it's like playing in the NFL sometimes. Tim, we just had 1 year of 12 teams. Do we need to expand it already?
No, I hate this idea so very much. But the fact that this is being floated tells me that A, they must have made so much money from this 1 year of the playoff.
That's where this is coming from.
Yeah.
And you're right. I had it written. ESPN is backing. They're promoting this, and why?
And B, it tells me that the NCAA thinks they can placate the programs who were on the outside looking in this year. But the fact is, you could make it a 100-team playoff, and the 101st team is still going to be like, what about us? You're never going to placate the boosters, the alumni, disgruntled viewers, disgruntled readers. Everyone's always going to have a gripe no matter the format.
I think that the biggest gripe is something they could address in their 12-team playoff. Adjusting the seeding so that, we don't get the big heavyweight game in the quarterfinals. And you have like Boise State and Arizona State waiting for you. Like, I think had they reseeded, or you just level them out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to 12, and then you reseed after the first game like the NFL does, so that number 1 seed is guaranteed to get the lowest remaining seed, and you can do that. That's very easy.
But that's such a human failing to think that we can impose order over chaos, which we cannot. Because if we start to say, well, this is who should be 1, this is who should be 2, this is the matchup everyone wants to see, we would miss out on matchups like we got with Arizona State and Texas, which no one had pegged as being a heavyweight bout, and which ended up being maybe the most entertaining game of the entire playoff.
I also think you might get that in an earlier round if Arizona State beats Boise and then they get Texas.
But the farther back you get away from the championship, the less dramatic stakes are involved. What made that so great is that it was happening closer to the championship, that it wasn't some sort of play-in game, or it wasn't a first-round toss-off. It had more at stake.
I like data. I like having some kind of, let's look back. I don't look at 1 year of having a 12-team playoff and saying, well, we have to fix this. And I think that was a problem with the BCS where we had 1 versus 2, where we locked an 8-year contract into this. We have to do 1 versus 2 when you could see, 4 or 6, or it would have been better. I don't think 14 is much better than 12. I mean, when you get to the point now where you're going to get 16, 22, like I said, you're always going to have people griping. The regular season's looted enough where, like, you have 4 lost teams in the SEC thinking that they belong in the playoffs.
Alabama still thinks kind of where I draw the line. National title. It's March.
So last week I was getting ready for the show before you called, and I saw this. It's a spoof website but it came into my email in a legitimate Michigan update that said Kellen DeBoer was getting fired. And I'm like, wow, breaking news today. And I found the website. I'm like, there's nothing to this. But it made sense because Alabama fans think that, post Nick Saban, they're entitled to, they're in the national title game. It's just whoever meets them there.
Right. Yeah, and to paraphrase Rick Pitino, Nick Saban's not coming through that door.
No.
A.J. McCarron's not coming through that door, and Derrick Henry's not coming through that door. And if they do, they're going to be old and gray.
I think it's the Will Andersons and the defensive players that they'd rather than A.J. McCarron. But now my dad, who hates Kellen DeBoer as a coach because he plays music during practice, I think he's of that same ilk. Like, hey, who's going to beat Alabama this year? Nobody. But I guess as a fan, when you have that much success over the last decade, that makes sense. But 14 teams, too many.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't see a significant improvement by adding 2 teams. Except 14 is a very odd number,
Actually, an even number, believe it or not.
Well, it's an unusual number.
There you go. It changes the way the bye structure works. Instead of top 4 buys, you get top 2 buys. I don't know what that would do to the regular season. What I did not do, I didn't go back and do the rankings and see what a bracket would look like. Oregon was 1. Was Georgia 2? I don't remember off the top of my head.
I don't either. Yeah,
but either way, like they would have gotten buys. I don't know what the first round matchups and then the Vegas odds for the quarterfinals would have been. I think 12 is okay. I would have been happy with 6 because that gives you a chance to give all of your Power 5 conference champions a playoff spot. And that was really my big thing. When you had 4, there was always one conference champ that was going to get left out. 2 if Notre Dame was undefeated. So
I think anything more than 16 is too watered down. I think 8 would have been fantastic. I'm happy with 12. But if we just keep expanding this until we get to like what, we're going to get to a 64 team field, and we're
playing college football now.
We're going to have NC State playing against Idaho in the first round.
You know what, Tim? I say this, and I don't. People would still watch. ESPN would make money.
To be clear, I would 100% watch.
I wouldn't watch North Texas, Idaho. I mean, I will watch the playoff games because they're playoff games. But I mean, I like watching Michigan football. I will watch Alabama football with my dad. I will watch other Big Ten games. Like I can watch Penn State, Ohio State. I can watch Oregon, Wisconsin. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I like my teams.
About any Big Ten team.
I like my teams. I would watch Big Ten games just because they're in the Big Ten. But I'm sorry, North Texas versus UNLV, I would look at the box score and say, oh, look at that. UNLV won. Good for them. That's just me. But,
yeah. So it sounds like neither of us is a fan of the format. So
No, not at all. Not at all. But things you are a fan of, I heard this on the news. It is illegal to run a sports show and not discuss the NFL. So
that is true. It is the law.
Here's our compliance. It's been 3 weeks. Any Super Bowl hangover or glowing? You still wearing the Eagles gear, or has that gone away? It's baseball season.
I bought a Eagles championship shirt. It's like a silhouette of people like celebrating in the street, and then there's one guy climbing a light pole holding a sign that says "Grease the Poles." So that is my Super Bowl hangover. I bought myself a Kelly Green souvenir.
There you go. Good for you. I have a hat collection for when like the Yankees won the World Series. I lost my 2009 hat though. I don't know where it is, and I think that's why the Yankees haven't won since. I have to find it. So
I've added to my collection of throwback baseball hats. I bought. I think I told you, like an 80s style, like White Sox, like
with the guy.
Yeah, and now my next one is going to be like a Robin Yount era Brewers with the glove with the ball in it.
You know who I think of when I think of the White Sox logo like that?
I think of Harold Baines or Floyd Bannister.
The strangest looking baseball player I've ever seen on a baseball card. Ron Kittle.
Oh yeah, he looks like a science teacher at
Either
like
that
a
or the guy
faculty
driving
day.
the guy driving the white van. Like, hey kids.
There was an era, and I missed that era, where you could have like an overweight guy in a nacho helmet who could be counted on for hitting like 30 home runs for you. He was like a middle of the order guy. But he didn't look like a specimen. He didn't step out of like a Marvel comic book. He just looked like a dude.
No, and that's what. So we're in spring training now, and people show up to spring training still healthy. They're not just trying to get in shape; they're already there. Now, but so back to football before we get fined here. I did something interesting. I saw somebody do this with something else, and I thought, dude, I'm going to try this. I went to AI, and not Allen Iverson, who's another Philadelphia legend. I went to ChatGPT, and I put a prompt in. So I'm going to read you directly from the prompt. I said, hey, simulate a Super Bowl played between an all-time Philadelphia Eagles team and an all-time Kansas City Chiefs team.
Okay. Now, the Eagles do have an advantage there because they go back to, the 30s, and the Chiefs are only going back to the AFL like 1960.
Well, I'm going to throw it to you a little bit. This is not the Mr. Smarty Pants list, but give me like your top 5 people who you think is on this Eagles all-time team. Any position, because they have them all listed here.
Well, Reggie White.
Reggie White's on there.
Dawkins.
Brian Dawkins is a defensive back.
I would think, even though Jalen Hurts is going to be considered the greatest quarterback the Eagles have had, I would think McNabb would have to be the quarterback.
He's their quarterback. You got it.
How about Harold Carmichael?
4 for 4. He's on the team. Hall of Famers, except for McNabb, but yeah.
How about
one more to go 5 for 5?
Jason Kelce.
Jason Kelce is in fact the center on the offensive line. Good. So there you go. And if you're curious, I'll list them real quick for you. Your running backs.
It has to be on there. Chuck Bednarik.
Yes. Yeah, Bednarik's on there. Oh, you keep going. I'll let you go till you miss one.
How about Steve Van Buren?
Steve Van Buren is. Oh, I thought I saw his name. Yeah, he was one of the running backs. Yeah.
Yeah. How about Clyde Simmons?
Simmons on the defensive line. Yes.
Fletcher Cox.
Yep. You got 3 defensive linemen. You need one more.
Jerome Brown.
Yep. You're 4 for 4 on the D line. You're rocking this, man.
How about John Runyon at one of the tackles?
John Runyon. You missed out on John Runyon. He didn't make the team.
The Eagles, they've had some good tackles because you've had Trey Thomas, Lane Johnson.
Lane Johnson made the team.
Yeah, and I feel future Hall of Famer Lane Johnson.
I would not disagree with that.
Yeah, who else is on the now I'm curious.
So your backs are Van Buren, LaShawn McCoy, and Brian Westbrook.
Good picks.
Wide receiver, Harold Carmichael goes along with Mike Quick and Hall of Famer Tommy McDonald.
Yep.
Zach Ertz is your tight end.
Okay.
Kelce at center. I think the way they put this, I'm assuming Evan Mathis and Brandon Brooks are guards.
Yeah.
And Jason Peters, the other offensive tackle.
Okay. Yeah. Another guy who's going to maybe go to the Hall of Fame.
Linebackers, you had Bednarik. I think you called out Seth Joyner. Bill Berge.
Oh, yeah. Recently deceased Bill Berge.
Dawkins in the backfield. You have to know at least one other defensive back.
Eric
Just
Allen.
made the Hall of Fame. Eric Allen. Troy Vincent, the name I remember.
Oh, sure.
And Malcolm Jenkins, did Malcolm Jenkins go to Ohio State?
Yes.
It feels like he did. Okay, so Jenkins is there. Your kicker, who do you think your kicker is?
David Akers.
Akers, and then Landetta is your punter.
And I'm putting Visek Hema back to return kicks just so he can box the goalpost.
So they didn't go that. They might have gone that in depth in the narrative, the simulation. But do you want to try for any of the all-time Chiefs? Some of them are pretty easy.
I mean, Gonzalez has to be a tight end.
That would be the first one I picked. Actually, no, the first one I picked might be on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, Derek Thomas, obviously.
Derek Thomas is a linebacker, but Tony Gonzalez is your tight end.
Neil Smith at D end.
Neil Smith is there with the weird nose button thing.
Willie Lanier at linebacker.
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
Bobby Bell.
Bobby Bell, Hall of Famer.
Len Dawson at quarterback? Or
No, they didn't go.
They went with Mahomes?
They went with Patrick Mahomes, yeah.
I didn't know if they were taking active guys or not. Okay.
They have a couple active guys here.
So Kelsey's got to be one of the tight ends then too, right?
No, you only get one tight end.
Oh, you only get one? Okay.
Yeah, and Gonzalez gets the nod currently.
Chris Jones is an active guy? No?
No Chris Jones.
What about
their backfield is stacked, especially if you're a fantasy football fan.
If we're talking great sports nicknames, what about Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare? Is he one of the running backs?
No. Way more recent than that. Priest Holmes, his number is RB1.
Yeah. Larry Johnson?
Guy from Penn State, Larry Johnson. And then I think this guy went to Texas.
Texas.
Well, let me triple check here. Let me just Google this character.
Jamal Charles.
He was born in Texas, and hey, he went to Texas. Yeah, Jamal Charles. There you go.
That is a pretty good backfield.
Yeah, I mean, the wide receivers are,
Tyreek Hill?
Tyreek Hill there.
Yeah.
This guy's from LSU, I believe.
What about in the secondary? What about Deron Cherry?
Yes, he is there.
I know more Chiefs than I thought.
You're rocking this out, man.
What about John Alt at one of the tackles?
John Alt is not a tackle, but
I used to love him as a tackle.
They do have one of the best tackles of all time.
Willie Roaf?
Willie Roaf. That man, I remember that when that guy was drafted, he was just a massive dude.
I just didn't know if they would consider him more a Saint. I mean, he did split his time, but I think his best years were in New Orleans.
I agree. Big, nasty William Leighton Roaf.
Yeah, tough dude.
Yeah, he played four seasons in Kansas City. They gave him the nod over Alt.
Yeah. Who else do they have?
Along with, on their offensive line, Brian Waters, Tim Grunhard, and Jim Tyrer. Wide receiver from LSU is Dwayne Bowe, and then Otis Taylor.
Oh, from back in the day.
Great football name for a defensive tackle, Buck Buchanan. Curly Culp. Art Still, that's their D-line. Okay. In the backfield, so you got Derek Thomas, William Lanier, and Bobby Bell as linebackers. D-backs, Emmett Thomas, Albert Lewis, Johnny Robinson going along with Deron Cherry. Their kicker, the worst human being on the planet, and their punter is Dustin Colquitt.
So wait, they took Harrison Butker over Jan Stenrud?
or Nick Lowry.
Yeah, because Stenrud was like the guy.
He was the
first
the standard.
He was the first inducted to the Hall of Fame as a kicker.
So I mean, there's that. I asked him. I said, "What would the coaches be for each team?" This was kind of funny because
it's got to be Andy Reid for both, right?
No, so it gave Andy Reid an honorable mention for Kansas City. He said, "If we want to avoid Reid coaching against himself, we could have Vermeil coach the Eagles." But
I think he would go with Hank Stram.
They went with Hank Stram as the Kansas City coach, and then they gave the Eagles Andy Reid. The honorable mentions, they gave Doug Peterson, Dick Vermeil, and Greasy Neal a little bit of love there.
What about Buddy Ryan?
They gave no love to Buddy Ryan. For the Chiefs, they gave some love to Andy Reid, Marty Schottenheimer, and Dick Vermeil.
Good picks.
Now, I won't tell you the final score just yet. Who do you think wins, and what's your score?
Oh,
I'm looking at the final right now. Tim's final, though. Neutral site. It's a Super Bowl.
I'm going to say
Homer.
I'm going to say Kansas City, probably.
What's your score?
I'm going to say 24-21.
24-21. So you have it by a field goal. Interestingly enough, in the first quarter, Tyreek Hill catches a touchdown pass to make it 7-0, but then Harold Carmichael catches a touchdown pass to make it 7-7. We go to the second quarter tied at 7. Kansas City opens up the second quarter scoring with a awful person field goal, but then David Akers knocks in a field goal, makes it 10-10. Jamal Charles scores an 8-yard touchdown run to put the Chiefs back up by a touchdown, but LaShawn McCoy comes back with a 12-yard run of his own, and at the half, we're tied 17-17. In the third quarter, Brian Westbrook catches a 5-yard touchdown pass to put the Eagles up 24-17, but Tony Gonzalez comes back, 10-yard catch from Mahomes, 24-24. Tim, we're tied in the fourth quarter. How you feeling?
Nervous that these fake people are so close in this completely imaginary game.
Now, this is where this part of AI is not concerning me about Skynet just yet because it hasn't figured out math. I'm looking at the fourth quarter scoring for the Chiefs. It says 4. And I thought to myself, holy cats, they pulled 2 safeties in one quarter? No. Butker kicks a field goal to make the score 27-24 Kansas City. And then the next line down under the box score, it says Butker 31-yard field goal, Kansas City 28-24. So they botched the score. Right now it's 30-24 Kansas City. But Donovan McNabb leads a 2-minute clutch drive where Zach Ertz catches a 9-yard touchdown pass to put the Eagles on top 31-30.
Chunky soup for everybody.
To win the simulated Super Bowl. ChatGPT said 31-28, but based on the field goal, it would be 31-30. A very exciting game.
I would think the problem with winning an AI Super Bowl is knowing which of your 7 fingers to wear the ring on.
So, as far as I asked for like a statistical breakdown, the Chiefs outgained the Eagles 407-392. It was not a defensive game yardage-wise, but each team got 3 sacks. The Chiefs turned the ball over twice. That seemed to be the big thing with it. And so Brian Dawkins, it says, sealed the game with an interception. So the Hail Mary was probably picked off by Dawkins there.
I'm so invested in this. I'm like, yeah, Doc.
I thought this was great. So a buddy of mine, the guy who I want to get on the show as a guest, our Canadian friend Palermo, he asked it to simulate either college basketball games or some kind of basketball. And I thought, dude, I'll put Tim through the ringer and I'll go through the Super Bowl. It was really fun to actually then ask some of the questions about the game. If you could ask ChatGPT a question about this game, Kansas City, Philadelphia, what would you be interested in?
How much were tickets going for?
Oh, I didn't ask that. I'll ask that next. I was wondering about penalties because, refs.
Sure.
It was even. Chiefs, 7 penalties, Eagles, 6. So let's say how much would an average ticket cost for this game? Let's see what ChatGPT says. For an all-time Super Bowl between the Eagles and Kansas City, ticket prices would be astronomically high given the legendary nature of the game. So the nosebleeds, it's saying $3,500 to $6,000. The luxury suites would go for $1.5 million and up. The average ticket price around $15,000.
I'll watch it at home.
Yeah, I mean,
who was the MVP?
I think it said who would the MVP have been in this simulation? Donovan McNabb.
Who performed at halftime?
Who would the halftime performance be by? For an all-time Super Bowl, it would have to be legendary. The headliners would be Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and the Rolling Stones. It has a set list Now, wait once. There's special guests. This is great. So the set list, Bruce Springsteen opens with Born to Run. Bon Jovi comes in with Living on a Prayer. The Rolling Stones, Start Me Up. And then Paul McCartney as a guest comes out with the crowd sing-along, Hey Jude. Wow. And then, of course, Elton John closes out with Tiny Dancer. But they also have, they have a hip-hop version where Jay-Z, Beyonce, Meek Mill, Usher, and Travis Scott come out. But then the country version, Taylor Swift, Garth Brooks, Chris Stapleton, Carrie Underwood, and Post Malone.
Do they resurrect John Lennon and George Harrison and reunite the Beatles?
I'm not going to ask it that. I'm not going to ask it that. It might get creeped out. So, I mean, for all the slack I'm going to give ChatGPT for the 1-point field goal, this is fun to do.
That was
so fun. Like we'll I think we'll do some all-time stuff going forward. I think it's silly. Like, who would win in a tennis match, Mike Krzyzewski or William Refrigerator Perry?
Or this could be fun come tournament time.
I think people use AI to do their brackets. I think it's cheating, and I think it goes against. Like, I have no problem with someone who doesn't know anything about basketball picking their favorite colors, or like, I like Huskies, they're so cute. And like when UConn wins, you're so frustrated with them because, they're just a good basketball team. But no, I wouldn't do AI. We'll see what AI thinks, but I wouldn't let it do my bracket.
I mean more like an all-time tournament. Like if you pick even if you make it like 16, like the Duke teams of the 90s, the great UCLA.
Think that's what Palermo was doing. Honestly, I think because he loves college basketball. He would have put like the 92 Blue Devils and the 96 Razor, whoever, Yeah, you pick like the last 64 NCAA champs. You could do that.
Yeah, like the Florida repeats, 76 Indiana that went undefeated. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Where's my pipe?
We'll revisit that. And I thought the AI would be a good segue because we try to segue here. It's
you are the king of the segue.
It is spring training, as we originally reported here on Soup and Meatballs. Something interesting happened in the New York Yankee game last week. The Yankees' Everson Pereira was initially called out on strikes on a full count, but he challenged it, and the call was changed to a ball. That put Pereira on first, and then Spencer Jones hit a 2-run home run. 2 batters later, they had an RBI triple. Now, the Jays still won that game, but that's an example of how one pitch can change everything. So, Tim, robot umpires, the challenge system, is this a good thing, a bad thing, a spring training thing, or a nothing?
I don't know if it. I still like human umpires. I think human error is built into the game. I think it's part of the charm. And I say that, even when it goes against like my rooting interests. I just think if it's funny that a sport that felt its games were running too long is now, putting a runner on second base to start extra innings, but also letting robots prolong games 10 minutes per disputed strike call,
Well, the nice thing, they did this in the minors. It's not 10 minutes. It's 3 seconds.
Okay.
It really is fast. I'm not against human umpires. However, when you have some of the worst human beings imaginable behind the plate, like Angel Hernandez.
Oh, I thought you meant John Wayne Gacy and Jeffrey Dahmer or something.
And that it's the stretch run in the playoffs, and you're 2 games behind in a wild card. You're fighting for a postseason spot. that's where that situation, like, and I know it's 162 games. Just win 2 more games in June and it's fine. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. And some of the calls are just so egregious. Like the picture we have on the screen, the picture I found. Listen, some of these are like hair thin calls that, you're going to that pitch is too close. You got to swing at it. But some are just so wide. Like it would hit me as a left-handed batter, and you're calling Aaron Judge out on it.
Here's where I'm going to sound like an old man, though, when I say that it robs the game of some of its charm. If we're going to be so precise as to allow robots to make the calls, why don't we just let robots play it? When we bring this element into it, we lose Earl Weaver, getting in an umpire's face, and Lou Piniella throwing second base into the outfield. That's the charm of the game. And I think the human element of sometimes being wrong still, and I know it sounds counterintuitive, I think it still needs to be part of the game.
I'd like to see the calls get right. If they would take in 10 minutes, I'd be with you. Like, yeah, no, that's crazy. Especially like you said, we're trying to speed the game up. But when we put so much pressure on that one human umpire, where now you can get on Twitter and look at their report card, and you can see some of these guys are grading out in the low 90s. Like, you have a 92%. That's not just missing one call. That's missing quite a few. I can understand fans' frustration there. I can, because I get frustrated with it.
I'll tell you where I think it could be a benefit. And I know I've talked before about how gambling can start to bleed into,
That's another issue.
Yeah, it's tough to put the screws to a robot umpire unless you're constructing it, I guess. But it's hard to influence it, through like financial threats or benefit.
I don't know if this is going to be a regular season thing, though. I think they were just introduced. They were beta testing it in spring training, but they've been beta testing it in minor leagues for a while. So I don't know if it's going to be a this year thing or if it's a future thing that Manfred's looking at. But it's a thing right now, at least in the minors, and something I thought was kind of at least interesting to get your thoughts on.
Right. I was and am a fan of like instant replay for fair, foul, and home runs. But when we get down to like the minutia of safing out and balls and strikes, I think that's giving a little too much to the robots.
Well, we've gotten to a point now where if we have first down technology and in the NFL, that's you have the pylon cam, and you had said something this week that the NFL was going to an automated first down system. Is that a thing?
Yeah. They apparently voted to go to like no longer using chain gangs to run out and say, oh, we're a link short. Like now they're going to use like electronic monitoring. That's
a bummer. Like one of my, I guess, sports bucket list items. I wanted to be a chain gang member for a pro football game. Just to hear what went on in the sidelines, because that was the only way I was going to get onto an NFL sideline. So you're saying that's not going to happen now?
No, but you still got college for the time being.
Yes, I mean, just get up the road to State College and see if Franklin put me on the chain gang. I remember when I was coaching football, I had some interesting conversations with the flag guys, because when you go on the road, it's always like their guys. It's like their 8th grade science teacher or, whoever is on the sticks. And I would try to ask them, like, is this kid any good? Who's their best player? And sometimes they'd talk back. Sometimes the old guys would talk to you. It was the young guys that'd be like snappy with you. Like, I'm here. Just be quiet. I want to talk to you. Like,
I'm an important part of the process.
He thinks I was scouting their 8th grade running back. Like, I could tell this kid's like 230 pounds and he's 6'6". Yeah, he's your best player. I'm not dumb. But I had some interesting talks with chain gang guys.
Me too. I mean, I was always a sideline guy when I would cover football games. I had a lot of good conversations with like assistant coaches during stoppages, chain gang guys.
Stories. You have to
like
do that kind of work.
Like in between, like after a touchdown, they'd come over getting ready for the kickoff.
I was only an assistant coach. I was afraid to. But ever since that, did I tell you the story about when I got flagged?
Yeah.
I think I did, yes. Ever since that, I was afraid to open my mouth because I didn't want to get like a legitimate flag. I knew I was vindicated because that guy ran into me. But I never wanted to be the guy who was like, come on over, and get flagged. That would not been cool. So I just didn't talk to them at all. I would talk to them through my players.
Yeah, I think most assistants know to kind of and let the head coach if there's going to be barking at the officials.
I would tell I would tell the players sometimes, like, yo, Big Jake, it's okay that he's holding you. I can see that he's holding you, but you just got to do your best. It's okay that you're getting held. And the referee was like 2 feet away from me. He knew what I was saying, but I would never say it directly to him.
See,
The other thing, NFL-wise,
I would get even more personal than that, and I'd be like, Tommy, don't worry that the official is trapped in a loveless marriage. No, I did not hear that he has an eating disorder. That's none of our business.
That's straight Jalen Rose trash talk out of the top 5 book. Had to do some research on the referees of the game. That's funny.
Yeah, the back judge, his girlfriend did break up with him at prom. It was totally embarrassing from what I heard.
You and I should coach just like one game and get tossed by the third quarter.
Should we be opposing coaches?
I think it'd be funner to be on the same sideline, but yeah, sure. The winner gets tossed first.
Oh my God, that would be so great. Like to just see coaches have to keep upping the ante.
and we would get stuck with like the really liberal referees that like, well, we'll let him play.
Yeah, like I'd get the guy who'd be like, "You're right. My marriage has been a sham for the last 10 years, to be honest. Thank you for pointing it out."
I haven't been to the optometrist in 10 years.
Yeah. You joke, but I actually do have progressive glaucoma. I will be totally blind within 2 years. This is more of a make-a-wish situation for me.
Well, another thing we forgot back in the NFL, this happened. What do you think about the Packers and the whole tush push mess?
To
We're in baseball, but let's go back to football because again, NFL contractually.
To borrow from Tony Romo when he talked about sports being the ultimate meritocracy, it strikes me as against the competitive spirit to say we can't stop this. So we need to make it illegal. It reminds me of like when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was too good, so they outlawed dunking. Which now, 50 years on, we look back and we're like, oh, how stupid. We're essentially debating it now. Like, are we going to get rid of the quarterback sneak while we're at it?
It feels like what Major League Baseball did with the shift.
It does. Because this is sort of like the equivalent of if a team just went up and kept bunting every at bat. But you know what? There are ways to stop it. Bring in rugby guys. Bring in a physicist to learn about lower center of gravity and leverage. Work to stop it, and the Eagles will stop running it.
The one thing that I'll say that I am not in favor of eliminating anything in football, which is, but during the Super Bowl, you did see Chris Jones getting his neck massaged.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's a defensive tackle. Jason Kelce famously didn't like running the tush push for the same reason.
And Juergens doesn't either.
But until it's stopped, I'm sorry, the Eagles are basically playing it's 1st and 9.
Yeah,
that yard is a big deal. Ask the Buffalo Bills about 1 yard and the tush push, running it well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if we're going to regulate anything that I think needs to get out of the game, it's a ball carrier deking a defender like he's going to slide and then going for an extra 15 yards. That is the epitome of unsportsmanlike conduct. To be like, I'm giving myself up. No, I'm not. Because if the defender were to hit you as you're giving yourself up, he would be getting the 15 yards. It's not fair that an offensive player should get to fake that he's giving himself up. That is much more egregious than the tush push.
I'm with you 100%. And one of the reasons why I don't like Patrick Mahomes. Or when Kenny Pickett did it when he was at Pitt, and he had that smile on his face.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if someone would have speared him, that smile would have disappeared real quick.
Yeah, and I think it would have been justified. But can't touch quarterbacks, and I think we're going to get fined for even talking badly about quarterbacks here. So let's get off of quarterbacks, and we'll go back to baseball. Really strange news I never thought I'd see. Did you?
Let me see what's on the screen here.
You ever think you'd see the day when the Yankees principal owner, Hal Steinbrenner, says, as Jeff Passan put it, changing the face of the Yankees literally. Back in 1976, George Steinbrenner said, no facial hair, except for like some mustaches if you were Thurman or Don Mattingly. But now, well-groomed beards. Take that for what it's worth. I don't know. What do you think?
What defines a well-groomed beard as opposed to an unkempt beard?
I think what you're looking at right now, I think Johnny Damon with the Red Sox, that beard is well groomed. 2 years later, when it was like caveman, I
Like
don't think
Jason
that
Worth,
I
like
think that would have been frowned upon.
like Jason Worth or like Brandon Marsh, like those are considered unkempt.
But I mean, Jim Neidhart had one of the most well-groomed beards ever, and it had length, and it was awesome looking.
It was like it was an aggressive beard. It was like spiked. If you
It
put gel
was.
on it, it was a weapon.
It was. I think he waxed it, because again, when I was coaching, I used to grow my beard out from the first day of training camp to the last game of the year, and it got pretty long. And I tried to get the point that Neidhart did. I could never do it, but his was so well groomed. I don't know. I don't mind this. I think that, I mean, it's 2025 now, and people go to work in t-shirts and shorts in some instances in corporate America. I think this was a little bit. I think prehistoric is the wrong word, but it's out of touch. And today's the best players today, they express themselves with tattoo ink and facial hair. I think it's fine. Then you got guys like Aaron Judge who say, people know the rules here, and they come here, and it's not a thing. Well, with Devin Williams, Devin Williams, it was a thing, and he was the catalyst behind getting this changed. I don't know if the Yankees ever missed out on a free agent because of this rule, but I don't know. It feels that the rule was subjective. Like a couple years, Roger Clemens had an 8 o'clock shadow, not quite a 5 o'clock shadow, and there were times you'd see like some of the big name players. Like Mattingly had to cut the sideburns a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. It does feel like it's from another time, like the Steinbrenner rule. I'm more curious what you think about. They're not going to play New York after losses now.
They're going to do That's Life, I think.
Yeah, I personally like that change.
I thought they used to play a different version of New York after a loss. I like that. I think I've heard in the past, like the young kids want to change the New York to like a Jay-Z song or something like that. I didn't like that, but I'm an old guy. I like that musical change. That's fine.
What do you think about? What do we have here? I see a Red Sox and a Yankees hat.
That's just now we're do Red Sox Yankees news. So
what do you think about the business with ESPN and MLB kind of cutting?
Let's get to that down the line here.
Okay, sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
Way ahead. Some news for the Red Sox for you, and news for the Yankees. Bad news for the Yankees. Yesterday, Luis Gil, the Rookie of the Year, he has an MRI today on his shoulder. It's a good thing they haven't traded Marcus Stroman. And the Red Sox lost a pitcher too. I don't know much about Cutter Crawford, but he got bumped out of the rotation for Boston a couple of weeks ago, shoulder stiffness.
And it's funny because other than and I've been falling asleep during basketball games. I've been so out of like the loop, just like with work stuff, that I haven't followed like. Great thing to admit on our sports podcast that I haven't watched a ton of sports this week.
I do some mild research a couple of days before the show, and I just talk. What I will say about Cutter Crawford, what I did find out, NESN, the Boston Sports Network, they called Crawford one of its most reliable arms. And this is where stats started to get me like, huh? Crawford was 9-16 last year. That's 16 losses, led the league. And that's in a league where the White Sox lost 121 games. Hey. Nobody on the White Sox lost more than 15. Crawford lost 16. A league high 34 home runs given up.
They only said he was reliable, not reliably good.
His WAR, wins above replacement, was a +2 on the analytics scale. Anything above 2 is a starter level. Garrett Cole's WAR was also 2. That's why I love this game, and I never understand the numbers. A guy that has 16 losses, 34 home runs given up, is just as valuable as Garrett freaking Cole.
Yeah, and that's historically been the knock against analytics and Moneyball, that for all the stats, how it can equate a guy like Cole with a guy who leads the league in losses. Um,
I love that aspect of it. Like, you like the human nature of umpires. I like weird numbers, and I think that's kind of why I like baseball, because it's a sport. It's a bunch of weird numbers, and analytics just comes up with weirder stuff that you can rank people with. But yeah, Cutter Crawford at +2 boggled my mind, and maybe even as mind-boggling, more Boston news for you. I don't know if you saw, they just signed a relief pitcher named Nick Birdie, former Yankee reliever. And this is where the media kills me. Headline writer. This is the you in the media.
yeah.
The headline said, former promising New York Yankees reliever signs deal with Red Sox. This guy signed a minor league deal last year, made the club, and was DFA'd in September. I mean,
right, and they make
promising
it sound
Yankee reliever is now a Red Sox.
They make it sound like he's the second coming of Brian Taylor, like we're going to stockpile his Topps rookie card.
Got to get the clicks, man. I will tell you the last bit of news that I saw. Good news for you. Garrett Crochet, the big starter, the trade coming in from Chicago. He's got an extension on his mind. So the Red Sox gave up 4 really, really good prospects for a guy that has 2 years of control. But, I mean, with what Boston gave up, you want to see a little bit more than 2 years. And it's on his mind, and he's open to talking about it. The quote was, as far as extension stuff goes, it's got to work for both sides, but I look forward to having those conversations. So that sounds like good news, right? At least for you.
Yeah. Certainly promising. And look, I mean, Boston had always been like an attractive landing spot, from the time of Dan Duquette, through the 2000s. So it's nice to see that maybe people want to come and stay in Boston, for more than just like a summer rental or one season.
Well, he's there for at least 2, and I think he's going to play his cards, and success breeds better extension. I wouldn't sign the extension today if I were him.
Yeah.
As you said, as we first reported on Soup and Meatballs about 8 minutes ago, at the end of this year, ESPN and Major League Baseball, it's a split. Major League Baseball has opted out of the final 3 seasons of the partnership. And I'll tell you what, I joked earlier about having it be contractually required by a sports show to talk about the NFL. But that's what it feels like. And that's kind of what it feels like MLB's ditching ESPN.
Yeah.
Because they get 0 coverage.
Yeah, ESPN has de-emphasized. It's funny for your corporate partner to de-emphasize your sport as much as ESPN has, because they talk about the NBA, they talk about the NFL, they talk about the WNBA much more than they talk about baseball.
I love pro football. I love college football. And when you blend them together, you get the NFL Combine. I love watching the TikTok videos of some linebacker from North Texas bench pressing 225 49 times. I think that's tremendous. I cannot sit and watch 3 hours of 40-yard dashes, though.
No.
ESPN will talk about 40-yard dashes for 20 minutes in a segment. And they'll pull in Booger McFarland until Chris Canty will come in, and they're going to talk about, all. Listen, we're a month out from the regular season starting. There's a lot of stories in Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani just hit his first home run. His shoulder might be back. Like I just said, Rookie of the Year having shoulder issues. Will Mike Trout ever, see 80 games again? There's things you can talk about. Yeah, it took him like 4 pitches to hit his first home run. There's stories that Major League Baseball is giving you, but I care more about what DeAndre Jordan is doing on the 40-yard dash as a defensive lineman.
It feels like this is what we used to go to like Baseball Tonight for. With like
Baseball Tonight is now famously a graveyard. Like one of the ESPN anchors was on TikTok, and he did a tour of the Baseball Tonight studios, which is just like storage now. It's a It's a shame.
It is, because I used to watch that every night for Gammons and, for the web gems and, for all of it. I don't know. Like, I'm curious going forward what this is going to mean, not so much for ESPN because they have no lack of content, but for Major League Baseball.
Well, let's talk ESPN first. This year, they still have Sunday Night Baseball. Next year, you know who benefits from this split, I think, the most?
MLB Network?
Maybe. They have to negotiate on the ESPN side.
Who benefits most at ESPN from this?
Because of ESPN. Maybe I'm wording it wrong.
Yeah, who are you thinking?
The Indiana Fever.
Oh, yeah.
I think the WNBA is going to get pushed hard Sunday nights now, and I think I don't think the Indiana Fever will ever not have a Sunday night game.
I would agree with that.
First time the Fever play, is it the Sky? Chicago?
Yeah, Chicago Sky.
They might play every Sunday. That's the new Yankees Red Sox for ESPN.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of that, and we're also going to see, I think, a lot of like trying to push some of the other big franchises in prime time, where we're going to see, maybe a little more New York Liberty and Las Vegas Aces, just to get like, Stewie and Asia Wilson and all of them out there.
On the baseball side of it, here's where things get kind of tricky. Cleveland is trying something this year. I don't know if you saw this. The Cleveland Guardians have a new streaming network for Cleveland games, right? They're gonna stream all of them. The Yankees have a deal with Apple TV. Apple TV does 21 Yankee games. It used to be with CBS 9, I think it was. So now I think you're going to see a lot of the streaming sites try to jump into Major League Baseball, whether it's Peacock or Netflix or Apple TV or one of those. And I know that was one of the things that ground your gears back during Festivus time. I think that's where MLB ends up pushing a lot of their product. The thing that, I should have brought this up back in Festivus, the local blackout concept in Major League Baseball. That has done way more damage to the product than it's done good.
Yeah, I think we're going to see blackout rules change in the next 10 years as streaming starts to take on more of this. I'll tell you who feels like a natural partner for Major League Baseball right now, and I hate to say it because of who owns it, but Amazon.
Okay, another
the success they had with Thursday Night Football. I could very much see them trying to make Major League Baseball a part of their sports showcase moving forward.
I mean, the Cleveland Guardians streaming network says no blackouts, but I looked to sign up. I would be blacked out when they're playing the Pirates. You actually get blacked out for the Pirates, Phillies, Yankees, and Mets.
Yeah.
So can you imagine? I mean, you are where you are, and the Indians are playing the Yankees. You're blacked out. Do you really feel like driving 3 hours to the Bronx to watch that game?
I don't and will not.
No, come on.
I know, just like even I have NBA League Pass, but I don't. It doesn't matter to me because I get the Celtics 82 nights a year. But I don't get the Nets, the Knicks, or the Sixers.
So if the Celtics are playing the Nets, you don't get that game.
Unless it's a TNT or ESPN game. But if it's just a regional non-network game.
You're not excited about driving to New Jersey to potentially watch that game? Or driving to Brooklyn, rather?
Yeah. Thank you, Jay-Z. I'd be driving to Brooklyn.
I think the ESPN split was inevitable, and I think the coverage you see – I mean, ESPN brought on Chris Russo. He's a big baseball guy, but it's such a underrepresented sport even in June and July because training camp's coming up. And what's Aaron Rodgers going to do? And will the Chiefs three-peat, or will the Eagles bend the tush push? Or, Caleb Williams is still a bust. Get you, Max. No. I mean, there's something going on right now you could talk about that you don't have to pontificate. I don't have to talk about the NFL every day, except during this show. Then we will. Please don't fine us.
Honestly, I think this might be the year that whatever the equivalent for Major League Baseball, the league pass for Major League Baseball, whatever their package is called. This might be the year that I do that.
I did it once. So through Comcast, it was called
Season ticket. No, that's football.
No, what was it? Comcast Baseball.
I think someone broke into your house. Did you see someone sneaking in the background?
That was my son. Prowler. Extra innings. Extra innings, it was called. And we got that one year, but then there'd be games you wouldn't get every game. It was a select 85% of the games on the docket. And if the Yankees were playing the Orioles, I had to watch Masson. I had to watch that because it was blocked. I was blacked out. Yeah. But I mean, I still got to watch the game. I as much as weird as it sounds, I would rather have a streaming ability to watch it on my phone than when I was on Extra Innings, I was locked into watching it from my house. So if we were away, if I was up to see my parents or we went to Pittsburgh or whatever, I couldn't watch Extra Innings because that was at my house.
I'm such a creature of habit that I can watch highlights or a 2-minute video or whatever on my phone, but for a whole game, I'd much rather just old man style sit here with my popcorn and watch.
I would pull out the iPad because it's a bigger screen.
That makes sense.
I got you. Same kind of. I like having the remote so I could click back and forth because I'm not watching commercials. I'd rather watch. I'm sure the Shawshank Redemption is on. I'll watch that for 4 minutes while you pitch me Toyota and Budweiser.
It's just how bad must the ratings have been, or how bad financially must baseball have been doing on ESPN for the ESPN has made it clear their lack of interest in baseball for the last 3 to 5 years. They were doing everything but explicitly asking for a divorce.
The only numbers I have, I just know that in 2021, the games covered by ESPN dropped from 90 to 35. I know ESPN is set to save a little over $1.6 billion. Major League Baseball will regain rights to Sunday Night Baseball, the Home Run Derby, and the Wild Card Playoff Round. Now, Fox has the Saturday Showcase. They've got the World Series. They've got the LCSs. The Fox network of they are probably happy. They might be able to put in for some of this other stuff. We'll see.
I wonder if Fox will try to add to the package they already have for a Sunday night prime time.
They're on that deal would have to get renegotiated, and you wonder what those business talks would be like. I don't know if Fox wants to invest that much more. I think MLB Network would make a lot of sense. I think because the stuff they're putting on Sunday night, like you're watching The Rookie or Bad News Bears.
I think it's going to end up being a bit shouldered between MLB Network and one of the streamers like Peacock or Amazon.
That's where I'm with you there, and we'll see.
And honestly, just going by traditional TV ratings, I mean, postseason baseball games were drawing worse ratings than preseason NFL games. So you can understand it from ESPN's point of view, but as a baseball fan, it makes me sad.
I wonder if those ratings are because though ESPN isn't pushing it and not drawing up excitement.
Right, and you do have that sort of chicken and the egg argument with are bad ratings leading to ESPN souring on baseball, or is ESPN soured on baseball, which leads to the low ratings?
And the answer is yes.
It is yes. It's a solid maybe.
Probably, perhaps.
Non-committal.
Okay, but the one thing we are sure of is 4 really, really cool quick hitter questions for you. Are you ready?
I am always ready.
Here we go. We're going to start with
last week.
We're going to start with baseball-ish. I saw a story that said the Yankees are going to have a team barbecue on their new patio, and Aaron Boone said they're going to have an ice cream truck coming, and the guys are going to play competitive cornhole. Tim, if you were in a competitive cornhole tournament against 2 of the best Yankee cornholios, which Red Sox do you want to be as your partner?
All-time or current?
Sure, yes.
Well, I'm terrible at cornhole, so we're going to lose. Uh, so I'd probably take Devers just for the conversation.
Devers is a Gold Glove third baseman. I was thinking you're going to go pitcher.
No,
Because
because we're
you
not
got
going to win
Ames.
because I'm too much dead weight. So I just want to have a conversation with the perennial all-star.
I got you. I mean, like the two best Yankee cornholers they might not be good. They might be worse than you.
I am shockingly bad.
Don't sell yourself short. You're a tremendous slouch. This was from last week. So last Friday in history, 1998, King and I closes at the Neil Simon Theater in New York City after 781 performances. Tim, do you have a favorite musical?
Movie or stage?
Yes.
My favorite movie musical is Singing in the Rain. I love that movie. Stage, maybe because we did it, but and I've seen other productions of it. I would say Guys and Dolls.
There you go. Have you seen the movie Wicked yet?
I have not. I've been making my way through the Oscar Best Picture winners. I just saw The Substance, and I actively dislike that movie a lot.
I don't even know what it's about, but I can tell you when you see Wicked, tell me. We'll have a whole show about Wicked.
A special Wicked edition.
Never gonna watch that show. Yeah, we'll bring Jen on.
I'll watch it eventually.
All right, number 3. Juan Soto, the aforementioned New York Met, gifted Brett Beatty a new car after getting the number 22 Mets jersey from the third baseman. Tim, what would you need to get from someone to give up your number?
I would go Robert Redford in Decent Proposals style, and I would say one night with your wife. Sorry, Woody Harrelson. I get one night with Demi Moore. I wear the number 13.
I don't know if Juan Soto is married or if Mrs. Soto would be down with that.
Girlfriends count.
There you go. All right, so I have a question before the question. Who's your favorite Red Sox of all time?
Pedro.
Okay. Who's your second favorite Red Sox of all time?
Either Ortiz or Pedroia.
Cool. That works. So let's say that you were at the game when David Ortiz hit his 500th home run, or like if Pedroia got 3,000 hits and it was a home run, and you caught the ball. What's it costing him to get the ball back?
Oof. See, I would feel like I was extorting him. But I would really want it as a memento. But as a fan, I would be like, he deserves it because it's his accomplishment. Probably money, but not like a ridiculous amount. Like enough that like I wouldn't have to worry about money. Like maybe like 250 to 500,000.
I will tell you, David Ortiz has a net worth of $55 million according to Celebrity Net Worth.
I would like $5 million then.
It's a $1 million man laugh. Attaboy. No, I often thought about this. The guy that caught Jeter's 3,000th home run, I would ask for 3 things. One, at some point. It was not a night with his wife. I mean, Jeter's had a lot of rendezvous. Number 1, I want to run the bases at Yankee Stadium. I think that would be cool. Number 2, I want to play catch with somebody on the team and not like a backup AA, that. And honestly, this was back in that time. I want to try to bunt a Mariano Rivera cutter. I want Mariano to promise not to hit me because I think I would have a heart attack. But I want to see if I could bunt a cutter. And I don't think I could. I think I could bunt a 4-seam fastball. I feel very confident about that. But I just want to see the way that ball moves in the box. Because I think as long as he promised not to hit me, don't come inside. Listen, I'm giving Jeter his 3,000th hit back.
You did always talk up your bunting skills.
I would go for experiences over money. But yeah, you know what? $5 million would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll take the $5 million.
Let me double check here.
I'll go bunt off a pitching machine.
What do you think Derek Jeter's net worth is?
Oh, it's got to be north of $100 million.
$200 million.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like
between
Steve Martin at Christmas. Yeah, definitely the this children singing. But I want revenge on my enemies.
right.
Let's reorder these things. First, the singing, yes. The running the bases, but then I want
In unmarked bills.
unmarked bills. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. Good quick hitter stuff and a gauge into your psyche. Lighter side of Soup and Meatballs time. We had a good A block, man. An hour 40. This is what happens when we miss a week.
A lot to catch up on.
Lighter side of Soup and Meatballs. We're going to switch things up a little bit here. We're gonna start with sad news from New Mexico, of all places. Gene Hackman and his wife, and along with their dog, were found dead this week. And while the ins and outs of that story are completely something else, we're going to try to focus on the happy stuff. We're going to reminisce about Hackman the actor. And our top five this week, our top five favorite Hackman roles. So here's what we're going to do. To get ahead of ourselves, we're going to do the draft for the draft. That makes sense?
Yes.
So we're going to pull these cards out. We just promise they're all different. I need a number and a color.
4 black.
1, 2, 3, and here's 4. Unfortunately, we got the Ace of Hearts, which you just got to trust me there. Ace of Hearts. The Ace of Hearts in our American Documents deck is Thomas Edison's patent for the light bulb in 1880. So I'm going to draft first. So that means you can go top 5 first.
Okay.
And I will be honest with you. I looked at his work, and I got 5. So that's my top 5.
And I know, I feel like I know where you're going. Number 1.
You know what? It's a 3-way tie almost. But yeah, but what's your 5?
My number 5?
Sure.
I'm gonna go with just a fantastically entertaining movie that is criminally underrated. I'm gonna go with Crimson Tide.
Okay. That didn't make the list of the big ones I hadn't seen.
Yeah, it's just a really good, what they call a two-hander with him and Denzel Washington, kind of feuding for control aboard a submarine.
Harrison Ford in that too?
No, I think you're thinking of K-19, The Widowmaker, with Harrison Ford and Liam Neeson. No, Crimson Tide came out in 95. It's Hackman, it's Denzel Washington, and Quentin Tarantino did an uncredited script polish on the screenplay. Really good movie. I saw it in theaters, 11th grade.
I will accept that. Number 5, Crimson Tide. My number 5, and it's really it's probably higher on your list. I've only seen it on cable or like on those like Fox 56 movies of the week, and it's one of his most iconic roles, and it's quoted, and he is just powerful in it as he looks around the gym and says, "This is big." I'm going to go with Hoosiers and Coach Dale. Yeah,
Hoosiers. I'll just tell you now. We can talk about was number 3 on my list.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and famously, Gene Hackman was like, "What are we doing?" Like he thought he was making some like terrible paint by numbers like Disney movie, and like him and Dennis Hopper, who is also in that, like in between takes, they'd be like, "This is just the worst movie ever. This is gonna be a bomb." And then they both ended up nominated for Academy Awards. Him for Best Actor and Hopper for Supporting Actor.
I have a fraternity brother who actually played a pickup game in that gym. Where the final game was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how they worked it out, or like if it's something like I saw that you could actually rent the Field of Dreams house as like a bed and breakfast.
Wow.
Like I don't know if that's a thing. You could go to the Christmas Story house and go through it. It's a museum now. So no, it's a really good representation of how a coach would coach. Like I would play for him.
Yeah, like when he sends 4 out because he doesn't want to let his one guy in as his sub. He's like, "My team's on the floor. Like, yeah, just one of the all-time great sports movies, probably the greatest basketball movie.
Right up there with White Men Can't Jump.
Oh, so, another underrated classic, White Men Can't Jump.
I still use the phrase "we're going to Sizzler," but
White Men Can't Jump was written by the same guy who wrote Bull Durham. He just specialized in making like niche 80s and 90s sports movies. Because he also wrote and directed Tin Cup, the golf movie with Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, cool. There you go.
My number 4.
What's your 4?
I don't know if you've seen this one. It's a Francis Ford Coppola movie from the 70s. It's like peak, like Watergate era paranoia thriller. It's called The Conversation.
Okay, another one that didn't make the big ones. I have it listed. The big ones I hadn't seen.
So in The Conversation, Gene Hackman plays this like surveillance expert who's sent to like, it's someone who thinks his wife's cheating on him, so he's doing like a private eye kind of job. And then he starts to find out more and more stuff and sinking into this like paranoid web of conspiracies that either might be real or might be just driving him crazy. And like it ends, spoiler alert for a 50-year-old movie, with him just tearing his apartment apart, trying, because he's sure he's being bugged by someone like a rival surveillance expert. And he just destroys his house trying to find a bug that does not exist.
That might be a fun scene to act if you're Hackman.
And then it just ends like with him sitting in like the ruins of his house, just like playing a saxophone, like among the ruins of his life. It's such a good, great paranoid 70s movie.
The way you described it, it sounds pretty interesting. I have a question. In the movie, does he have a mustache?
He does.
Because with my number 4, I'm going to go with a movie that they actually tricked him into shaving off his mustache.
Ah, yes, Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor is Superman. In Superman 1, in Superman 2, I'm going to put them all together. The thing about Superman 2 I remember is the classic heel turn when he's like, "Hey, Zod," this is what he said. And but he was a really cool villain, and he was a smart aleck. Like I didn't like Superman as a kid. I wasn't a big superhero guy, and the movie was fine. I remember going to see Superman 4. I don't know if it was with you or my sister, and I remember the movie theater reel died for like a half an hour, and that was really the best part of that movie. But going back and like revisiting how he portrayed the character, he might have been the perfect Lex Luthor, man.
He was having some, he didn't get asked to do comedy a lot, but he brings like this, like sort of like devilish comedy to Lex Luthor, that he's clearly having the time of his life in this ridiculous role. Like he's this classically trained Broadway actor, just hamming it up as like the consummate like comic book villain. And you're right, like for that era, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone who would have been a better fit as Lex Luthor.
I mean, who they had Lex Luthor like later? Did Kevin Spacey play Lex Luthor?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
and Jesse Eisenberg did too.
Despite his personal issues, I mean, he had a good look for it. But I think you run into the same situation as who played Superman better than Christopher Reeve. He's the one we associate with the character. So even if I came out and played Lex Luthor like really well, I'm no Gene Hackman, and the Supermen since Christopher Reeves aren't what we grew up with, so they're not the same.
Right, but you know, that's not always true, because everyone said that about the Nicholson Joker, and then we got 2 Oscar-winning performances from Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix.
You did, but whenever you see the people still, there's arguments to be made for people. I think Ledger is he's an anomaly in that regard, but I can see that. You gave me your 3. I'm gonna give you my 3 now, just to, because if this is on your list, I'd be shocked. It's not a movie where he is the main character. Clint Eastwood is, but he plays a really, really miserable president. This movie's called Absolute Power.
Yeah,
and he does. I think he's a bigger bad guy in this movie than he is in Superman.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but
same here.
Him and Clint Eastwood had kind of an interesting couple collaborations in the 90s, one of which will come up later in my list. And it's funny because there was like a time where there were a couple of competing Murder in the White House movies, because there was also
Murder
Murder 1600,
1600.
and then we got like competing like Asteroids Coming to Kill the Earth movie, and then we got competing like volcano movies with Dante's Peak. And, well, anyway, but Absolute Power.
I like Volcano.
Yeah, Volcano and Dante's Peak, and then we got Armageddon and the one with Morgan Freeman as president. Deep
Impact.
But Absolute Power, that's another one. It's you know, now that movie theaters have kind of become de-emphasized with streaming, it's something we don't see a lot, which is sort of like the moderate box office hit, where like it's a movie that we both remember from 30 years ago, but it wasn't like a smash success. And it's not replayed all the time on cable or anything like that. It was just a really solid movie that, you know, people of our generation just remember.
That doesn't make any sense. It grossed $50 million in the U.S., $98 million worldwide.
Yeah, so back when like $100 million domestic was considered like a smash hit, I'm sure it like made back its money in a tidy profit. You know, I don't know what the budget was, but Eastwood's known for working pretty lean. Yeah, like it was the kind of movie that we don't really get anymore. It wasn't like
Ed Harris in that movie too.
Yeah, and he's another sort of criminally underrated actor.
And Laura Linney, yeah. So there's a wow. I mean, I didn't look up the page here, but Laura Linney's a big name. Harris, Hackman. Yeah, let's give Absolute Power some more flowers, man.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't like an Oscar movie. It wasn't a prestige movie. Yeah. It was just a really solid. You go to the theater and you're entertained for 2 hours, and you walk out and you're like, "No, that was a pleasant way to spend 2 hours."
It was a fun story, and
about murder in the White House.
Multiple murders in the White House.
Murders, plural. So since I gave you my number 3,
what's your 2?
My number 2, I talk about Gene Hackman not having done much comedy, and this is one of my favorite comedies, The Royal Tenenbaums.
That made the list of the big ones I haven't seen.
So I think what I like most about The Royal Tenenbaums and his performance in it is that he's, you know, Wes Anderson's known for creating like these kind of like delicate universes, like almost like these little doll houses where everything's very twee, and Gene Hackman just comes in as like a bull in a china shop, just bouncing off of the antique furniture. And like that contrast between everyone else and him as this just terrible absentee father who's scamming his family. Like he's pretending to have like a terminal illness just so he can have some time with his adult children that he neglected. It's darkly funny. It's poignant. He should have been nominated for an Oscar for it. It's one of his best performances.
That's what when I was looking up. That was mentioned. Look at this. The cast in this movie: Owen Wilson, Ben Stiller,
Bill Murray, Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelica Houston, Danny Glover,
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin narrates.
I wonder why I didn't. This was a 2001 release, so. Do you know what part of the year released? It released in October, so I was just out of school.
Yeah, it was the follow-up to Rushmore, so it was seen as like being like a potential Oscar movie. So it released what was traditionally like Oscar time, like October, November, and December. It's got a great soundtrack too. You really should watch it. It's just a really good movie.
Got me and Julio down by the schoolyard. There it is.
Yeah, it's got the Ramones. It's got what else is on that soundtrack? I can't remember now.
Like that song?
Van Morrison. It's got Van Morrison.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. I will tell you the odds of me seeing that are probably up there with you seeing Wicked. I mean, maybe
I'm going to see Wicked. Eventually, I'll see Wicked when you see The Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh well, we'll never have that talk then. Jeez.
Okay. Regardless, I'll still probably see Wicked.
There you go. With my number 2, I'm going to keep Gene Hackman in politics. And he's not really the main character in this movie, but he is a very funny side whatever you want to call it, supporting actor. His situation with his son, I believe it is with. Oh my goodness, who's the guy? I can't think of the guy. The movie's called The Birdcage.
Oh yeah.
But the guy who runs the drag show.
Robin Williams and
Robin
Nathan
Williams. Lane? Nathan Lane, that's the guy I'm thinking of. Yeah, like Nathan Lane playing to Gene Hackman dressed. That is some of the funniest stuff. And Gene Hackman is this strictly hardcore conservative, like this is can't possibly do that.
He was like Rick Santorum before Rick Santorum.
And he has to he's caught in the drag theater and they have to get him out and they put him in drag so that the news gives you like that. Was that? Nah, that wasn't him.
Yeah, very funny movie.
That's a funny movie, but it's not really a Gene Hackman movie. But he was in it and I saw it, so it made my list. And I really laugh at that movie.
It is more of like a Robin Williams, Nathan Lane movie. And
great in it.
And it's funny because they wanted him for the more broadly funny part that Nathan Lane plays, and Robin Williams was actually the one who suggested, like, what if I play the other Armand? Like, what if I play the father?
That the casting was really good. So if Robin Williams saw it, then good on him.
And it was directed by Mike Nichols, who a legend in his own right. Directed The Graduate and Working Girl and Carnal Knowledge. So great stuff all around there. So you may have guessed my number one because I was watching it the other night and I texted you as I was watching it. It's Unforgiven.
That made the list of big ones I haven't seen.
Unforgiven is, I don't know if it's my favorite Western, but it's up there. It's probably in my top 5. And Gene Hackman won an Oscar for playing just like the evil sheriff who kind of runs the town with an iron fist, runs the town of Big Whiskey, Wyoming. Do you know anything about the plot?
In Big Whiskey, Wyoming, a cowboy named Quick Mike slashes someone's face with a knife.
Correct. And so there's a bounty that's put out, and Gene Hackman's trying to discourage other would-be assassins from coming to collect this bounty. And Gene Hackman, if you remember Daryl Gates, who used to be the head of the LAPD around the time of Rodney King, he based his performance on Daryl Gates as being like this, pleasant and smiling guy until he's not. It's a charming but frightening performance, which was kind of Hackman's stock and trade. He could be like these big imposing figures, but still make you want to watch him. And so that's like the absolute the Gene Hackman perforance for me, more so than The French Connection.
One of his Academy Award wins, as you said. Yeah. So that totally makes sense. And I'm not into Westerns, but if I was, that I could see everything you said makes a lot of sense. I'm into really weird, cheesy movies, as you can tell, with Absolute Power and The Birdcage. And I'm pretty sure you have a pretty good idea of what my number one is after what I said. This list needs miles and miles of heart. I'm going to take his role as Jimmy McGinty in The Replacements. He was a good coach. He could coach basketball and he can coach football.
Versatile actor, versatile coach.
He brought a bunch of, it replicated the strike in the NFL. We had replacement players, and it was the Washington Sentinels.
Yeah.
Needed to win 2 of their last 4, and then the quarterback crosses the picket line who kind of looked like Jim Kelly.
A little bit.
I got that, and we needed to get that losing Ohio State Sugar Bowl quarterback in from the Matrix to beat the Dallas Cowboys, who had all their defense back from crossing the picket line.
But that's based Washington, then the Redskins, now the Commanders, did still have their replacement players and had to play Tom Landry's Cowboys in '87, and really? did beat Tom Landry's very good Dallas Cowboys with their full complement of starters.
Miles and miles of heart.
So that is absolutely inspired by real life that game and the story in general, like you said, with the
Jimmy
87
McGinty,
French.
Joe Gibbs. There you go.
Yeah, essentially. In fact, I think there was a 30 for 30 about that Washington team that beat the Cowboys, because then the replacement players were not given rings. The Cowboys Washington won the Super Bowl that year, and it wasn't until like a few years ago that they finally got those players the rings that they deserved. They won.
I remember that.
Yeah, they
hearing
won a
that.
game for a Super Bowl champion. Of course they, you know.
I had it. It's gone. It wasn't that big anyway. No, so the cool part about that game, or the cool part about that movie, I love how they put sports highlights to music and stuff. So there's our lists. I'm sure. So the other things that I saw that were big that I hadn't seen the French Connection, and I remember seeing the VHS cover for Mississippi Burning,
Sure,
in like Hollywood Video, but that like I was like 9 at the time. That I wasn't gonna watch that.
yeah. So Mississippi Burning was in my honorable mentions. It's more a great Hackman performance. I have problems with the movie, just because it kind of. Well, I have problems with the movie. We'll keep this apolitical.
There you go.
My objections are political. Bonnie and Clyde, who's really good in Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay.
I had the French Connection in my honorable mentions, and then I'm surprised you didn't have Young Frankenstein.
I'm a terrible person. I haven't seen Young Frankenstein.
How have we been friends this long, and I'm only just learning this information? This shocking information.
I've seen clips. Like I know most of it exists, but it's all Gene Wilder clips.
If you told me you were the real DB Cooper, I couldn't be more shocked right now to know that you, as a Mel Brooks fan, have not seen Young Frankenstein.
Like I said, I'm a terrible person.
Frankenstein.
Well, I'm a terrible person who has the number 1 pick in the draft now. And as we started this with movies, the reason why we went to the top 5 with Gene Hackman, I didn't want to like end with that. So let's end with something a little bit happier. Concept of movies we wanted to do a couple weeks back, like back in October. We missed a show. It was the 30th anniversary of Pulp Fiction. You talked about Quentin Tarantino earlier, directed Pulp Fiction, and they had their 30th anniversary in mid-October, I think.
Yeah,
and
October 14th was when it came out in '94. So yeah,
we thought it would be neat to talk about our favorite 90s movies. So we were going to do a draft of our favorite 90s movies, and I have mine listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that I looked at how I rated them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my 5, oh my goodness,
you're getting a tour of my house because I left my list in the kitchen.
That's up for debate right now. And 1, 2, 3, 4 though pretty standard. And number 1, I think, is a shock to no one. I am going to take the classic movie, The Big Lebowski.
Naturally, I expected no less, and our love is well documented.
We drafted a whole draft of Lebowski characters. So
yeah.
If anything else was number 1, would have been shocking. So go back to show 21 or 20 or whatever it is, and you can see our draft of Lebowski characters. But we'll end it there. Great movie.
And it probably won't come as a shock to you. My favorite movie of all time, and it is from the 90s. I'm taking Goodfellas. Goodfellas
is it made the other side of that might have popped into number 5 for me.
I just, to my mind, Goodfellas is the best directed movie of all time. Like that sequence.
I just saw that sequence on TikTok last night. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, seeing the helicopters. Like if you.
Oh no!
That's the sequence I'm talking about.
The Steadicam shot.
Well, yeah, the Steadicam shot at the Copa, but more so, I was thinking like the seeing helicopters. I don't know if I've ever seen a director who's as good at getting you inside of a character's perspective of like the paranoia of like. But not only that 13-minute segment in itself would be a compelling short film. Like just like, May 1980, that to the point when the cops are pointing the gun at Henry Hill's head and telling him he's under arrest.
If it was a made guy, I'd be dead already.
That is filmmaking at the highest level. That easily. As much as I love Lebowski, Goodfellas is my favorite movie.
I don't think you're not gonna feel bad about getting that number one, number two. My number two movie is something that honestly, when I think of the 1990s, it's the first movie that comes to mind. I'm going to take Clerks.
You're not taking it 37th?
No, in a row.
Yeah, and it's funny because
when I turned 37 and I could literally get online and say I'm 37, and a whole generation understood what I was talking about.
Yeah, and that's another movie that's very much of its time because it felt like something we all discovered, and then we were all speaking like the same language of these jokes of like 37 or
Hey, you get back here.
Yeah, or anyone who hears the word berserker and doesn't have that song in their head.
Berserker. Would you like some? Did he just say making? Yeah. And what's amazing about it is it's just so perfect in black and white. And I think Kevin Smith did that because the lighting in the convenience store was so jacked. They couldn't film it different days. It would look different. He's like, what if I just did it in black and white? And that makes it so much better.
And they also had to put that sign about, yes, we're open, because they were filming at night. And they wanted to block out that it was night outside. So that was their sort of elegant workaround.
And the coolness of the fact that a character doesn't say anything except for one line. And he's one of the main principal characters of the movie that you remember. And the fact that it was the director himself was kind of neat. That and the fact that the people, this is almost like a cult movie. I have two back-to-back cult movies. People go to that Quick Stop in New Jersey to take pictures.
And I don't know how we've gotten this far into it without mentioning my favorite character in any Kevin Smith movie, Randall. And the scene, look, I'm 45 now.
I still do the
little shimmy
as well. Yeah.
The scene of him reading the movie titles. I could be 85 and I'll still laugh at that.
What are you looking for?
All-timer of a bit.
Happy Scrappy Hero Pups.
Happy
loves
Scrappy.
Them. He loves them, obviously. I hadn't thought about my favorite scene in the movie.
It's easily the movie titles for me.
I think the hockey thing where the guy just wants to buy some cigarettes and he comes and joins the hockey game and knocks the ball like 2 feet away. And they're like, we got it for one ball? What? You guys have any balls down there? But the biggest you've ever seen.
And I think also part of the charm, we were talking about baseball's charm is in some of its human failing. Part of Clerks' charm is that it does not feel like a professional movie. Like the acting is raw, the directing is as amateurish as you'd expect from a first-time director who's maxed out his credit cards to even make this movie. But that is part of the charm of Clerks, is that it's got a real sort of like do-it-yourself aesthetic to it.
And to me, that's the 90s to me.
Yeah. It reminds me of like TV class. Like part of it was like watching Clerks and being like, okay, I could do some version of this if I'm just like smart enough or creative enough.
Speaking of TV class, I'll tell you, The High Price of Knowing didn't make my list, but it should have.
Well, would have made my Hackman list, but he backed out at the last minute. The money fell through. So my number two, I'm going to go with the aforementioned Pulp Fiction, which I have on my wall. So,
okay.
1994 was the best movie year of my life. It's like the year that I really, really fell in love with movies, and Pulp Fiction's a big reason why.
I had a hard time with Pulp Fiction. So I went to the theater because you saw it first and you said you got to see this movie. And I went and I just didn't get it. The splicing of time, I was so used to watching a movie from A to Z. That's it. And Pulp Fiction started you with F, went to G, went to Z, back to B, and my mind couldn't get wrapped around it. Later on, after like 17 views of it, I could appreciate it more. But back in 94, I was like, this is the worst movie. I think I've told you, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. It's so dumb.
And to that point, I remember seeing it on opening night at the old Churchill Cinema on 309 in Hazleton. And, spoiler alert for a 30-year-old movie, when Travolta gets shot by Bruce Willis and then shows up later in the movie during the Bonnie situation, there was audible confusion where I remember the lady behind me. She was like an older lady, and she said, "I don't get it. Is he immortal?" Like she thought she was watching some sort of like supernatural thriller.
Yes.
Like that made more sense than he's just telling the story out of chronological order. Just one of the few times where I've seen a movie and had my eyes opened, like, wow, like that. Oh, I didn't know that you could tell a story like that.
Which is funny because one of my favorite movies of all time, which is not on this list because it's not a 90s movie, Memento, is told from Z to A, but it's still chronologically Z to A. Pulp Fiction bounced, but what Pulp Fiction really had that I liked, obviously the sheer Samuel L. Jackson quotability of it. I think one of my favorite characters in any movie, anywhere, any place, anytime is Winston the Wolf.
Yeah, great role for Harvey Keitel.
And what was he in the movie? By 5 minutes?
I think he has 8 minutes of screen time.
Pretty please, with sugar on top. It's a half an hour drive. I'll be there in 10. He's awesome, and he shows up in a tux. Like,
yeah,
what was he doing? What was he doing that they pulled him out of? Do you know? Was that ever mentioned?
So I've since found out that it says in the script that he's at like some sort of like underground casino in the morning.
Locking in somebody's bedroom.
Right. Like, so it's like a floating game, like a floating, like illegal gambling operation that they do out of like either like a hotel room or something like that. And he adjourns to the bedroom, it's like a hotel suite where he's adjourned to the bedroom to take the phone call. But yeah, Pulp Fiction, easy number 2 for me.
Cool. So my number, I'm just going right in order. Bing. Lebowski 1, Clerks 2. This movie's awesome. I have to really think about where this would be in my top 5 of all time. It might have made my top 5 when we did our quiz. It's not number 5. It's not number 3. It's 7.
Oh, as in, yeah, not
the movie 7. What's in the box? No, that's just such a cool concept of a murder mystery thriller thing using 7 deadly sins and like, oh, we're gonna kill the fat guy because he eats too much. The prostitute is lust. We're gonna do that. That was bad. Just a really awesome ending. Then how they completed the 7 deadly sins. And again, despite his personal issues and his awfulness as a human, Kevin Spacey as John Doe is just holy cow. He is just evil. In and around the era, I think 7 came out in 95. Was Silence of the Lambs 91?
It was.
Like John Doe and Hannibal Lecter as a tag team might have knocked off Axe and Smash. They were just cold-blooded badasses,
but their finishing move would have been whispering in your ear until you swallow your own tongue.
And then I'd have to eat the spaghetti till I died. But like Morgan Freeman versus Brad Pitt as the style of cops they were. And I still think to myself, whenever this comes up in my head, we got culture. Yeah, we got culture coming out of the blank. Whenever I hear like you're a cultured person, I think, yeah, I got culture coming out of the blank too. When Brad Pitt's in the library doing his, when Morgan Freeman's in the library and the guys are playing cards.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I know everyone went crazy for The Sixth Sense and that ending. I was kind of cold on The Sixth Sense. I didn't love it.
I watched The Sixth Sense on VHS with my buddy Coma. I love Coma more than anything. He was one of my best friends in my life. He was in my wedding. Just a great guy. So we're sitting there watching The Sixth Sense, and Dummy just says, "I think he's dead." So I'm glad I didn't see 7 with him because he probably would have said, I bet you he dies. I bet you she dies. Thanks, Coma.
Well, the ending to Seven for me was what The Sixth Sense was for everyone else. Like I remember watching that ending in my head just reeling. I was like, "Oh my God, it's Gwyneth Paltrow's head in the box."
And then he wants to die. He brought them out here because, I mean, everybody thought, there's 2 more dead bodies. Well, there's 2 cops. He's going to kill the 2 cops. Why not, right?
Right.
No.
John Doe has the upper hand.
John Doe has, yes, I love it. And he finds this place where there's power wires where the helicopters can't come. And, man, it's good stuff.
Great movie. Great pick. Let me see. I'm going to take as my number 3. I'm going to go with another one that was a bit of a box office hit. And anytime I've probably seen this movie 30 times. It's The Fugitive.
Didn't make my list, but you know what?
I love The Fugitive. It's in my personal top 10. So, of course, it's going to be in my top 5 for the 90s.
Sure. I think what gets me is the conflict. Like in the movie, like he's got to prove he's innocent. And the fact that we know he's innocent, and it's just, Tommy Lee, would you just leave the man alone? But that it's done so well. And Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones together. Yeah, that's good pick.
And, you know, 2 things strike me about The Fugitive. One, it was so much better than it had any business of being. It came at a time when they were making a lot of like old 60s and 70s TV shows into movies as like a cash grab. Like they did that with, the Avengers, meaning like the Ray Fiennes, Uma Thurman movie. The Mod Squad. They
was that the same time Mission Impossible came out? Too?
Yeah, Mission Impossible. They just did it with all those different movies. And, The Fugitive was just like, that was just a jumping off point. It was like an inspiration for what became a great movie.
Off the Hoover Dam or whatever
Yeah, he did a Peter Pan right off this dam right here. Boom. And that's the other thing is the first 30 minutes. If you're not watching the whole movie after those first 30 minutes of, it's very quick, very, very quick investigation right into the trial. He's found guilty because we know the backstory. We don't need it. And he's immediately on the run. You get the train sequence. He's on the run. He's in the hospital. He's on the run. He's in the sewers, and he's on the run. He's jumping off the dam. Everything from opening credits to him jumping off the dam. You watch that, and you are all in. You are in for the duration. It is one of the great openings to any movie ever.
Yeah, When was the last, how long has it been since you've seen it?
6 months.
It's been a long time for me. I need to go back and revisit what does an elevated train sound like?
You must have the ears of a hawk. Play that again. I want to hear what an elevated train sounds like.
Tommy Lee Jones as that detective.
And he won.
I have a hard time thinking of a better performance, even on the list we have, even going up against Goodfellas, even going up against Pulp Fiction. Tommy Lee Jones is awesome in this.
That was a stacked year for Best Supporting Actor because you had Ray Fiennes from Schindler's List. You had Leonardo DiCaprio from What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Malkovich from In the Line of Fire. And I don't think anyone is like, no, it was Tommy Lee Jones, rightfully so. Like, he is so obviously the choice in a field where any other year, any of those other guys could have won.
The two other main detectives, there was the black woman and the guy with the mustache.
Joe Pantoliano.
Yeah, and I don't know who the woman was, but like the way he just barks and orders them around, and they're like, God, not this again. They play well off of him, even. Like, yeah, the whole investigative unit starts and ends with him, but even supporting him, they did a really good job. And then the guy that got his ear, poor guy.
Yeah, they did a great job of just casting like really interesting character actors to fill in. Yeah.
Get closer.
Don't bargain.
Yeah. I'm remembering a little bit of it. Yeah, that's good stuff. And then the guy gets the metal beam in the face and doesn't die.
Yeah, that's well, they wanted to kill him off, and Pantoliano wouldn't let them do it because he was like, I want to be in the sequel. And
then there was the
U.S. Marshals.
Wesley Snipes is on the run then. And then that kind of felt like, we're going to the well one too many times, gentlemen.
Yeah, U.S. Marshals felt like what The Fugitive could have been.
Good. Number 3. I'm just going down my list. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another movie when I think of the 90s. This encapsulates. So Clerks encapsulates what I feel our high school was like. This movie encapsulates what I feel my college was like. And it's because I had all grown up and I was grown up. I'm going to take Swingers.
Great pick. And when I was watching that, I think
I didn't swing in college. Let's get that straight. But it's kind of how.
I think I was watching that this summer, like last summer. It was on Prime, and I sent you the video of watch. I'm going to make number 99's head for Superfan. Like that whole scene of them playing one of the all-timers in video games.
Is he clean? Tell him to come in. Tell him to take off his shoes. I want to see him. Oh, dude. Almost every scene in that movie, there's one, and you know which one it is. There's one that can go. But every scene is just so funny in its own unique way. If I never hear that character talk to his girlfriend's answering machine 7 times.
Oh yeah. I mean, call me again.
That the awkwardness of that is like, it's painful. But I mean, the guy's golfing and talking about, well, at least it's Disney. Yeah. I got to be goofy. Or the video game scene. Even when he finally meets that girl and he goes swing dancing, and the drunk guys are in the booth just like, that's
and it's Heather Graham, by the way.
Heather Graham, that's right. Like Vince Vaughn and the guys in the booth just like drunking on each other because their boy found something to dance on. That's just,
or the whole thing with you're a bear and you've got these claws. You don't even know what to do with them. You're just looking at these claws.
Little bunny, and you're just batting the bunny.
I don't want you to be the guy in the PG-13 movie who everyone's really rooting for. I want you to be the guy in the R movie. The guy's a little dangerous. That's a great pick. Very quotable movie, too. Great pick. Yeah, that's become a staple. I think definitely like among our friends of because you're grown up and you're grown up and you're grown up.
Wait, I've always wanted to do this. I don't even want this. Give it to the people behind. I don't even want this.
I've always wanted to either do that or what Bill Murray does in Kington, where he's talking to the women and he's like, "Hi, you." No, not you.
You. Hey, you.
Or when he tells Woody Harrelson, "Go eat that outside." A lot of great picks for my number 4. I am gonna go. You took Lebowski by the Coen brothers. I'm gonna go with a different Coen brothers movie and take Fargo.
Okay.
I love the movie Fargo.
Another one didn't make my list, but and another one, believe it or not, haven't seen. I know the wood chipper concept.
Have you seen the TV series?
I have not. No.
Both the movie and the first 3 seasons, especially of Fargo, and the 5th season.
It was a TV series, honestly.
Yeah, it's like each season's a self-contained story, so it's more like a mini series, I guess. But yeah, it's like different stories inspired by the movie, but not an extension of the movie, if that makes sense. But yeah, the movie's fantastic, and Frances McDormand rightfully won an Oscar for Best Actress. I know Roger Ebert had made the point where she might be the only character in movie history who starts the movie pregnant, and at no point in the movie does she give birth. She remains very pregnant throughout the entire movie.
Sure.
William H. Macy's really good in it. Buscemi's
in it. I see.
Peter Stormare, who plays one of the nihilists in Lebowski, he's in it.
I wonder why I just never thought to watch it. I don't know.
Yeah, you should check it out. I mean, it's Coen Brothers, so it's going to be like darkly funny at times.
I'm more likely to watch that than I am the Royal Tenenbaums. I'll tell you that.
I like Fargo more than the Royal Tenenbaums. I'll say that.
It was the AFI named it one of its 100 greatest films in history. So,
yeah, I remember seeing it. That's another one. I saw all of these in theaters except.
And here it is. The TV universe premiered in 2014. So, Okay. I can be coerced into that one.
I think you'd like the TV show too.
Okay. That's a good 4. My 5. I mean, I have this listed as number 5, but I'm not gonna pick it. I'm gonna go over here. Really, because I had just seen clips of this on TikTok, and it's in my head more. And I have a feeling that my 5 might be on your list, so I will be nice and not steal it from you. So the one I'm going to go with, it just barely ekes out in the 90s because it was in 99. But it was a movie that when I was in college, a bunch of us were like, this is incredible. We should do this. Wait, no, we're civilized. It's Fight Club.
Oh, wow. And that's a movie that I did not love Fight Club. I haven't seen it
Really?
since it came out. I liked it. It was fine.
It had the cool twist at the end was enough for us. Like, wow, this is so cool. I don't think we would have gotten behind the vandalism behind it, or
the domestic terrorism.
Yeah, but the whole he's beating himself up, and the lack of sleep and that kind of concept. Meatloaf was in it, and he had
a juicy bosom.
Yeah, I was gonna. How do I say that? Yeah, you can't. Yeah, there you go. And the leading actress,
Helena
Bonham Carter. Yeah, I mean, she is a staple in Tim Burton movies, but she really fits this role really well. And not Ed Harris,
Ed Norton.
Ed Norton, yeah, the other guy, and he was fine. I think Brad Pitt did a really good job doing what he did. So yeah, I'm going to take Brad Pitt and Fight Club for my number 5, just to get out of the 90s.
I'll say this about Fight Club is I hadn't always had the highest opinion of Brad Pitt as an actor in the early to mid 90s. And Fight Club was maybe the first movie where I was like, oh, okay, there's a little more going on. He's not just a pretty face. Like there's more going on here. So it was definitely an eye-opener in that regard.
I had just started seeing a bunch of like Fight Club TikTok videos. We're in the basement. It's the sign says Lou's Bar. I'm Lou. Who are you? You should join us, Lou. And then Lou beats the hell out of him.
And it's funny because truly I have not seen that movie since I was like a sophomore or junior in college or whatever.
That's my kind of like. I'm not a classical. Let's win an Oscar award. That's smash somebody's head against the ceiling.
What I'm seeing from your list is that even though you may not have realized it, you're quite the David Fincher fan. Between Seven and Fight Club, both by David Fincher.
Sure.
So I have a whole list here to pick number 5. I think you thought I was going to take Silence of the Lambs.
No, and amazingly, that didn't make my list. I really like the Hannibal Lecter character, but again, with like 6 minutes of screen time, I don't get enough Lecter for that movie.
I think I'm going to surprise you with my number 5 because my number 5 is Boogie Nights.
Okay, yeah, that surprises me, and it's another one I haven't seen.
And it's going to be tough. We've always said this is a family-friendly podcast. It's going to be tough to talk about a movie that is set entirely in the world of 1970s hardcore pornography.
Adult film.
What's that?
Adult film.
Yes, it is. It is about pornographers, but it is a well-made movie about pornographers. And you talk about another great cast. I mean, I still think that's Mark Wahlberg's best role. Burt Reynolds, Julianne Moore, Heather Graham, Don Cheadle. Just a great cast.
John C. Reilly in there, I see.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Brandt. So Brandt was in the movie who I passed up that I thought you were going to pick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, do you have any idea?
Brandt was in the movie. So a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie from the 90s. Well, I can tell you.
Say it again?
I can tell you the talented Mr. Ripley was in my honorable mentions. Philip Seymour Hoffman's in that.
So, I mean, he was not a main character, but let me make sure I got this right. I might be like leading you down. No, he's definitely was. Brant was definitely in this movie, but it was not a Brant movie. It was not a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie. It was absolutely by and far largely an Al Pacino movie.
The Devil's Advocate, Heat.
I'm worried. This movie not really that good. Like
an Al Pacino movie from the 90s.
Yeah, 92.
Scent of a Woman.
Scent of a Woman, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
Okay, well, I thought I liked that movie, but that was my honorable mentions.
That's when Pacino started to become like the hammy, like later year Al Pacino. The hoo-ah! Yeah.
What was on your honorable mention list then?
Let's see here. Silence of the Lambs, L.A. Confidential.
Okay.
The Talented Mr. Ripley, as I mentioned. Rushmore.
90s movie?
Yeah, 98.
Okay. Wow, that's earlier than three of mine.
And then two others: Saving Private Ryan and The Crying Game. No, really, The Crying Game's a great movie.
I haven't. I know part of it though.
Sure, everyone now knows the the twist.
On my your list and my list definitely encapsulate what we think of movies. I'll go from 93 to 99. The two 93 movies that made my list were Dazed and Confused.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which I will always sit and watch if it's on TV. And a movie that will never be on TV. It hasn't aged well, but it brings me back to 93, sitting there watching it with Matt Chisnell and him telling me we should sit in the middle of 309, the program.
Oh, God. And I knew kids who did that. Like,
I no, and not joking. Yeah, people did, and because people see on TV and then they do because they're dumb.
Yeah.
But no, Alvin Mack and watching, because in the early 90s we didn't know what it was like in the locker room. Watching those guys watch film and break stuff down, and it was cool. And Tim Wayman won the Heisman
and put their head through someone's car window.
Yeah, the Michigan quarterback won the Heisman, so good for them. In 96, the three movies for me, Independence Day was an interesting experience because when we went to the theater, it was only single seating only. We couldn't sit next to each other. I liked that movie. Scream really redefined what a horror movie was.
Scream was a great movie-going experience. We saw that on opening night at the Old Church.
And the other one, I think more for the soundtrack and the concept of, I didn't know what VX Poison Rockets were, The Rock.
We saw that with your dad.
Yeah, that was the second time I saw it. I said, Dad, you're going to like this movie. I don't know why I thought my dad would like that back then. And then the 99 movies, if I think about movies that remind me of that era, American Pie is one of them. And the other one, which turned into a four-bagger, but the trilogy, I really enjoyed the Matrix trilogy. So the Matrix, I didn't like Matrix 2 as much as Matrix 3. So I forget if it's Reloaded or Revolution. I think Reloaded was part 2.
This might be shocking information. Would you believe I've never seen 1 minute of the Matrix? Any of the three?
No, it's just as you shouldn't be. You might be shocked that I haven't seen Fargo, but
I don't have any aversion. Like I like what I know of it. Like it sounds like a really interesting movie.
There's too much action sequence. I really like the story, behind what it is. Yeah. I could do without so just like in like we talk about Star Wars movies, The Phantom Menace, I could do without the 27-minute pod race. Like in The Matrix, there's a 20-minute sequence of, we're going to shoot at each other, and that's fine. I could do without that.
For me in Phantom Menace, I could do without all the Senate debate about trade embargoes. It's like C-SPAN with aliens.
That's part of the story, though, and how Palpatine like captures power. I don't need it for an hour. It's part of the story. I can get behind that. But like, listen, I know that this kid is going to get released from this evil fly wasp Watto guy. You know, the evil Italian stereotype. I know that. You don't have to give me 30 minutes. There's no tension there.
And that's kind of that's the trouble that's built into a lot of prequels, is that if it's a character who existed in the
where Revenge of the Sith did really well is you know what's about to happen. But the way they tell the story of, did I ever tell you the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? No. Oh, that's interesting how Palpatine kind of got into Anakin's head. Well, you know he's going to turn, but the how was actually good in Revenge of the Sith. The fact I didn't need a 30-minute pod race, it wasn't exciting to me. Just like in the Matrix back, all of these, the shooting and this, I know they're not going to die. You're not going to kill them in the first 2 minutes of the movie. Unless you do, then that would have been nuts.
And it's funny because I've been reading a book about the movies of 1999, and I just finished the chapter on The Matrix, and it made me want to go watch it, just like reading about like the story of the making of. So maybe I'll try to track down The Matrix.
It's a good trilogy that then HBO made a fourth, which I watched, and maybe I have to give it. You know, maybe it's like Pulp Fiction. You got to watch it 3-4 couple times. I didn't love the fourth.
Yeah,
I watched it. It was fine, okay, and maybe I'd watch it again. But I preferred my Matrix as 1, 2, 3. So they were my honorable mentions.
That's a good list.
I think as far as drafts go, I'm surprised we didn't have as much crossover as I thought we might have. But you know, lot to pick from back then.
Yeah, really. So, I mean, between like the Lebowski would have been on my list. Obviously,
Goodfellas made my list at least as honorable mention.
Yeah, I thought maybe I thought you might have mentioned like Casino or something, or Donnie Brasco.
I liked Goodfellas more than Casino because the invariable. So in mob movies, you have the life. Oh, and that's the glorification, the romanticizing of, you know, the gangster lifestyle. The part about Casino that bugged me the most was the Ginger McKenna aspect of it. Like, Lefty Rosenthal had it all. Like, he was running stuff, and a stupid prostitute woman throws it all away. And like he throws it all away for this person.
Yeah.
And the child abuse angle of it, like that, as I got older, bugged me even more.
Sure.
That this druggy pimp guy, Lester Diamond, you know, he still was kind of pulling the strings of this girl who, for all intents and purposes, was probably a nice person. But her connection with him the behind the scenes stuff, like the first hour, like let's, you know, Remo Gaji and, you know, how the bosses that built the casinos in Vegas. That part of the story is great. The behind the scenes in Donnie Brasco, what I read about Donnie Brasco more so was more interesting than the way it was portrayed. Another one of, you know, Pacino's great as Lefty Rosenthal, or Lefty Ruggiero rather. I thought his performance was awesome.
I loved him and Donnie Brasco. If they were going to award Pacino for a 90s performance, he should have gotten an Oscar for Donnie Brasco instead of.
But I think almost a better representation was his name's Michael something. Whoever Sonny Black was.
Oh, Michael Madsen.
Michael Madsen, yeah, he was a. If you knew anything about Sonny Black, the picture is like, holy cow, like that's him. He fit that really well. I try to think of the way they portrayed Donnie Brasco's home life. They moviefied it. Like it wasn't like that.
I'm trying to remember. Was Anne Heche?
Anne Heche played his wife, and it wasn't as estranged as, at least the way the book wrote. It wasn't as estranged as the movie put it out to be. But again, you're making a movie, so you build up that kind of tension in that character. The way it ended was you were left to believe that, you know, Ben Ruggiero was shot and killed by his compatriots for bringing Donnie Brasco in. That was not true. He died in prison of throat cancer many years later. He was in prison in Texas, I want to say. But again, they don't show him getting killed. They show him leaving the apartment, and then the gunshots were Joe Stone in the shooting range. But like you were meant to think that, I think.
Right.
So, no, but
especially the way like Pacino, he's leaving and then he leaves something behind, but they don't show what it is. But
yeah, well, no, he gave his wife he put his wedding ring down. He took all his jewelry off, and that's right. If you knew in that life that you were going to get murdered, you would leave all your valuables, because once somebody shot you, they would steal from you. So, good deal. With Mr. Smarty Pants, we're going to stay in the movie realm, kind of a little bit, at least for the question part. There's 3 questions, all kind of about Gene Hackman. While at the Pasadena Playhouse, Gene Hackman and a classmate were voted least likely to succeed.
Dustin Hoffman. Yeah.
Oh, hey, look at that. Like, boom. Gene Hackman, when he was 16 years old, lied about his age to join the military.
Yeah, he joined the Marines.
He joined. Which branch did he join? 2 for 2.
Yeah, Semper Fi.
And Gene Hackman was the first choice to play a certain character we talked about earlier, but I guess he turned it down so that
Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter, dude, you are a Gene Hackman machine.
He's one of my 5 favorite actors.
There you go. I mean, that's why we call him Mr. Smarty Pants, or he's down there. Let's bring you back down to earth a little bit. I saw this TikTok video, and I had to fact check it, and I think they screwed up. And then I'm sure I screwed it up because I couldn't figure out where they were getting their information from. They said there were 20, but I found 21 active athletes, current active athletes, that according to their sports reference page have a 100% chance of making their Hall of Fame. So there are 21. If you want to go by league, I can tell you there's 5 in the NBA, 5 in the NFL, 4 in the NHL, and 7 in Major League Baseball.
All right, wait, hold
on.
So
which 21 athletes, according to their sports reference sports reference page, have a 100% chance of making the Hall of Fame?
Okay, you said 5 NBA. Did you say 5 NFL?
Yes.
How many MLB?
7.
And how many NHL?
4.
Okay. All right, so
I would have gotten 2 NHLs. But
Crosby and Ovechkin.
Ovechkin is 1, yes.
And Sid Crosby.
Sidney Crosby, they're the only 2 NHL players I know. So if you can get one more, you beat me.
Connor McDavid? Did they have him yet? All right, let me come back to hockey.
Come back to hockey. That's no problem. You just tell me the league you want to go to.
Let's go to the NBA.
NBA. Okay.
LeBron, Steph, and KD.
LeBron, Steph, KD. 1, 2, 3.
And you said they're all active. It's not like a retired guy who's still waiting out, like his eligibility.
They are playing right now.
Okay.
Saw one of them yesterday.
Jokic.
Nope.
With 3 MVPs and a title, he's not an automatic? Give me a break.
It is 100% on Basketball Reference. And all the people in the TikTok video were like flying off the handle about that.
Yeah.
He might be like 99 or something.
Kawhi? Harden?
Harden, yes. And that's the one the video missed. And that's the one I saw yesterday with his big weird beard.
Westbrook?
Not Westbrook. Same position.
So another point guard. Steph, KD, LeBron, Harden. Oh, CP3.
Chris Paul. There you go. So you got the 5 NBA guys.
All right. Mahomes.
NFL. Okay, so Patrick Mahomes, yes.
Kelsey.
Which one?
Travis.
Travis is active, yeah. Jason, not active, yeah. So Travis Kelce, yes.
Okay. So if they retired today, they'd be in their Hall of Fame.
Okay, so I'm all right. That's on me. I really thought this guy was active. Maybe he's not.
An NFL guy?
Yeah. Yeah, he retired, so I'm going to take him off the list.
So it's 4 NFL guys.
4 NFL guys. I thought Aaron Donald was still playing.
Oh, no, he retired.
I'm done.
So I got Mahomes and Kelsey.
Holmes and Kelsey, yeah.
And then 2 other NFL guys. Okay, let's see. Let me go division by division here. What about Myles Garrett?
And people were surprised by that.
All right, let's see. It's too early for Josh Allen. Rodgers.
Rodgers is one. So you got one more NFL guy, and I didn't fact check whether or not he was still playing. I think he is, though. He has 2024 stats. Oh yeah, and yeah, he played in the playoffs.
Okay, so he was on the playoff team.
Playoff team. Went to college. He went to Texas A&M. I don't think that'll help him.
No.
AFC
playoff team A&M.
He has played 8 games of his career have been played in the NFC. Every other of his 186 games have been played in the AFC.
Okay. All right, let me think about who made the playoffs here. The Ravens, the Chiefs, Bills, the Chargers, the Texans, Steelers. I almost said Russell Wilson, but you said he only had 8 games in the NFC.
Russell Wilson had more than 8.
Yeah. I don't know if I know it.
It was a tough one. He's on the Buffalo Bills. He doesn't get a lot of snaps. He doesn't start anymore. Maybe a third down guy that you throw in, maybe to get a clutch sack.
Oh boy, I really don't know.
Von Miller.
I didn't even realize he was still in Buffalo.
He played 13 games last year. Yeah. So, and I don't know if
he's more of a lock than Myles Garrett.
Yeah, that's that. Again, this is sportsreference.com.
Right.
Don't yell at me. They got JJ Watt too, and they said JJ Watt was a no. So.
Oh, come on.
You even want to try hockey?
I probably don't know the other two.
You have Jeannie Malkin and Patrick Kane.
Oh, if I'd guessed long enough, I didn't know Kane was still active. To be honest,
I mean, does he play for the Blackhawks?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Malkin was part of the Crosby Penguins.
He was with the Penguins, yeah. And then my brother-in-law's a big Penguin fan, so I knew the name, but I wouldn't have picked it out. So you got Major League Baseball. You got 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They got 7 MLB guys at 100%. These guys are Hall of Famers. Who do you got?
Trout
is 1.
Kershaw
is down here on the list. Yep. I mean, they're not like ranked, so he's 2.
Scherzer and Verlander.
That is 3 and 4. So you win the series, but
okay. Let's see here. Arenado?
No.
Goldschmidt?
No. One of these is kind of like
Judge?
One of these is like really already. No, not Judge.
Ohtani?
Yeah. They said if he retires today, he's a Hall of Famer.
I was wondering if they were going to like jump on one of these younger generational guys like an Ohtani or a Judge. So I have 2 more.
Other two, I mean, I don't know if I'd call them 100%. They're really good bets.
Oh, Mookie Betts.
I'm looking at the word bets. I'm like, I don't know why I just said that.
I was gonna guess him too because I was like MVP, multiple champ. Yeah, Betts is a good
Betts
one.
is there, and then
Freddie Freeman,
the guy I don't really want to talk much about. Yeah, Freddie Freeman.
Frederick Freeman.
There you go, man. So that's not a. You know what? Out of the 20, you didn't get 3. And
yeah, I didn't get Kane, Malkin, or Von Miller.
You needed a clue on one of them. That's a solid week, man. Woo.
And if we've learned anything, it's that I know a lot about Gene Hackman.
Crushed Hackman. So that's great. We're gonna do a bracket with you today instead of a roulette ranking. If you can get the thing that ties this together, I will be proud of you. So I'm gonna give you 2.
Is it Gene Hackman?
Gene Hackman is not one of the names I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you 2 players, and I don't care how in your mind you just pick whatever one you want to win. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is Huey Jennings, Hall of Fame shortstop, first baseman, who was born in Pittston, by the way. He played for Baltimore, Philadelphia, Detroit from 1893 to 1918. So Huey Jennings, or Anthony Rizzo, 3-time All-Star,
Rizzo,
World Series champion.
Sorry,
You do it. Huey Jennings or Anthony Rizzo?
Oh, Rizzo.
You're on Rizzo. Okay. So next one, Don Baylor, celebrated baseball lifer, or Jason Kendall, owner of the ugliest baseball injury I've ever seen.
That was an ugly injury. I'm going Baylor.
Baylor. Okay. Now we have Tommy Tucker, guy who won the batting title in 1889 with Baltimore.
You tell me like I don't know.
What's that?
You tell me this like I don't know. Keep going.
Or Ron Hunt, the 2-time All-Star with the Mets in 64 and 66.
Ron Hunt.
You're going Hunt. And our final first-round matchup is Hall of Fame lifetime Astro Craig Biggio or Dan McCann, member of the 1905 World Series New York Giants.
I'll go Biggio.
Biggio. Okay. So our final 4 set, you have Anthony Rizzo or Don Baylor.
Baylor.
And in the other semifinal, we have Ron Hunt or Craig Biggio.
Biggio.
Your final, Craig Biggio or Don Baylor.
I'll go Biggio.
Biggio is the winner. And it's an interesting, you know what? He's not that far off. So do you have any idea what these 8 players all have in common?
They all played multiple positions?
I think Kendall was only ever a catcher.
I thought he played some first base at the end of his career.
He might have, but no, that's not where I was going.
Okay. Then I don't know.
I can tell you I had them seeded, and the first round featured an 8-1 upset.
Oh, it was the amount of times hit by pitch.
Anthony Rizzo knocked off Huey Jennings, who was hit by a pitch 287 times. There you go. But Craig Biggio's 285 was good enough to win the bracket at the end. So I don't know why I thought about that. And I saw Huey Jennings was born in Pittston, so that's kind of neat.
I'll take that, though. You know, it wasn't my first guess, but I got there.
And so Ron Hunt was a 6-3 upset over Tommy Tucker. But so Biggio kind of had an easy route. He beat the 7, he beat the 6, and then Don Baylor was the 4, who was the beneficiary of the 8-1 upset.
And a former Red Sox, Don Baylor. So I had to go with Don.
Manager of the year with the Rockies. There you go. Good times. So what do we miss today? We're pushing 3 hours, which is what happens when we miss a show.
The Oscars are tomorrow.
Are they really?
Yeah, with my man Conan O'Brien hosting.
I probably will watch.
I will watch. I actually have an Oscar pool going with some friends.
I never got into like any award shows. I watched the ESPYs the first year, and I think that was I don't watch them anymore.
Me neither.
If there was, you know what, there kind of is. There's not a show for it. Like I'm a big board game guy. there's an award called the Spiel des Jahres, which is Game of the Year in German. I don't pay attention to that either. I don't know. I live in my own little bubble. If enough oxygen gets in, I'm happy. If enough meatballs get in, I'm happy. If not, then well, good. There's something else going on too.
I'm picturing a bubble with a little meatball slot for Jen to just drop meatballs in.
Kind of like one of those bubble gum machines you put a quarter in.
Yeah, it would come in like a plastic egg, and then you'd open it, and that would come the meatball.
Meatball. We missed Mario's last night because Derek had it was called the Pops concert. I sent you a video. They did Jaws. They did a really good job, and so we ate there. And tonight we can't go to Mario's because so that was Symphony. Tonight is the band concerts spaghetti dinner. It's a big fundraiser for those organizations, so we'll go do that. But there's something else big today. What else is big today?
It happens to be someone. Well, not technically his birthday, but my son Ryan. He's a leap day.
It's not. Yeah.
He's a leap day. He's February 29th, but since it's a non-leap year, it is Ryan Hare's 17th birthday.
Do you celebrate the day after the 28th? Like I thought some leap year people might have done on the 28th of February too.
Ever since he was little, I've told him that he wasn't born on February 28th. So on non-leap years, I've told him he could open his presents on February 28th.
Because that's a Christmas Eve of leap year babies. So
right. But yeah, he's only had 4 genuine birthdays. So he's 4 1/4.
It's good. He looks good. He's a good size for his age.
Yeah, top percentile.
Top percentile on bench for a 4-year-old. So that's a good deal. Happy birthday to him. I cannot wait for my birthday. My daughter's birthday even better. Because my
birthday's right around Mikey's because they're both
in May. Like it'll be nice. Like I'm looking at my weather right now. Rain, 44. Blah. Maria was born on July 7th. Give me July weather all the time. 3 days after Mikey on the 4th. So your kids are amazing. You have February 29th and July 4th. Like
and then there's me 9/11.
Yes. Oh, that's 2. Like
that was my 22nd birthday was 9/11. Not to laugh.
But there's something about those just weird dates for you. Like when Maria was born, it was the 7th day of the 7th month in 2017, and she was born. I'm not kidding you, at like 6:42 p.m. And I joke with Jen all the time, like you couldn't hold out for 18 more minutes. To which she always snaps back, "No." Like I get. It's funny now. It was not funny then.
As you're about to like throw up, hold it in, see what happens.
18 more minutes, and then push for. So you got 60 seconds to make this work. No, we laugh about that a lot. Oh well,
I think this was our best show this week.
It was the best show we've had in 2 weeks.
I would completely agree.
And I'll tell you what, we have to just now at least BS for 2 more minutes because we're at 2:58. And I don't know if we've ever had a 3-hour show. We probably have.
We've come close, but we've never had a 3-hour.
So, I mean, what else can I pull out for you news-wise? Get your mind out of that. So if we go to sports headline. Oh, we didn't talk about, and it actually, and this probably should have made the list. You know the whole Matt Stafford contract issue?
Yeah.
Everybody had him leaving. He just signed a mini contract. He changed his contract to stay with the Rams. I think that's the smart move for him.
How much did he sign for?
Let's get my producer in my ear.
I wonder if it was just a negotiating ploy to get a little extra money.
Structured contract, ending speculation. 37-year-old. His $27 million salary is significantly less than the compensation. The deal only had $4 million in guaranteed. It doesn't seem to. It just says it. Yeah, without the Rams announced their new agreement on Friday without initially revealing any details. So, I mean, that's what AP has. ESPN, do they have anything new? Because, again, that's all they worry about is the NFL. And we're going to talk politics here in a second. I know we don't, but we're going to. Stafford agrees to restructure deal. Yeah, no numbers. Another headline on ESPN about our current president who says he is going to pardon baseball legend Pete Rose. I don't know what that means. If that's going to, he did not say
get him in the hall.
Cover. Rose served 5 months in prison after pleading guilty to tax evasion. Rose passed away. I don't know if the president thinks that's going to get him in the Hall of Fame, but that's a thing.
Maybe he can pressure the Hall of Fame like he did Romania to let the Tates out. I know we're apolitical. Off my soapbox. I'm off my soapbox.
We're 3 hours in, so the gloves are off now.
Yeah, anyone who's watching and what's Meatballs After Dark when we work a little blue.
Yeah, so Boogie Nights was an interesting pick for you. We started off. We started off the '90s draft with the Big Lebowski and known pornographers in the parlance of our times. You know, how are you going to keep them on the farm when they've seen Carl Hungus?
Yeah,
and we ended with actual known pornographers.
Would it have been better if I picked Silence of the Lambs with Ted Levine doing his little dance for the camcorder?
Which Jason Mewes duplicated in one of the Clerks sequels.
Yes, he did.
Tie it all together. The '90s works like that. Oh, we had a good 3 hour show now. So I'm cool. You're cool. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you again next time when Soup and Meatballs get together.